just got that notification, bruh. And when I get that notification, baby, it only means one thing, people. It simply means that we are live. Yes. Friday is here again. Y'all know what it is. Y'all know how we do. I can't waste too much time. We got heavy hitters inbound tonight. So, current time, 6:28 p.m. Central Standard Time, which means you are in the right place. Woo! You are on the right YouTube channel. And you know what's about to happen next, baby. You already know the most electrifying introduction in live stream entertainment today is about to go down. So this is the part of your Friday evening where I ask you to turn your volume down, to be mindful of those in your immediate surroundings, because y'all know the decibel level is about to go way up very quickly. So turn your volume down. Let me do what I do, and then after that, you can do what you gotta do with the volume. But this is gonna happen real quick. It's about to get real lit, real quick. No time to waste. Let's go to work. Oh yes. Woo! My favorite part of the entire live stream, because after this, I literally don't know what's about to happen next. But your boy's in the building, and let's go to work. Woo! All right, here we go. Hold on. Let me go over here real quick. All right, here we go. What's up, people? This your boy Viper, the man about tech, and we are live. Welcome to Friday Night Vyp, baby. Woo! Oh, yes! It is that day again! We are back! We are live on YouTube! Now, before I get started with this evening's festivities, because it's gonna be an epic episode of Friday Night Vyp tonight, baby, let me see who I got in the chat tonight. Let me go back over here to the stream. All right, what is this doing? Get out of here. All right, let's go back to the stream and let's go to work. So, actually, I see that the first on the list here is Alex Jackson, the Apple jockey himself. But when I went to check the stream, like sometime this afternoon, actually, we had Tech Valor, Catwoman herself, who made a comment. She was answering the question of the live stream. So she said, yes. So that is very interesting. So Catwoman, I saw you show up like half a day early for the live stream. I appreciate you. Love you. All right. We got CDF Man out here. What's up, CDF Man? How you doing? We got Beanie Draws in the building. What's up, Beanie? How you doing, bro? We got Jillian stepping out there. Hey, Jillian, how you doing? We got F. Nick. What's up, F. Nick? My man, Genosis is in the building. What's up, Genosis? How you doing, bro? We got Titan Tech in the building. What's up, Titan? 504 is out there in the cut. What's up, bro? Alan Osborne. What's up, Alan? How you doing, man? We got Mia Diva Rodriguez. What's up, Mia? How you doing? Oh, here we got the Catwoman herself. Tech Valor is out there in the cut. What's up, Catwoman? How you doing? And we got my dude, Evid A in the cut. So, y'all know what's going on, man. There's a lot going on. Jony Ive left Apple. We're going to get to that in about a half an hour. I'm not going to start off with that. But, like I said, we got some serious heavy hitters inbound to talk about Jony Ive and what his leaving Apple means for the company moving forward. You really can't talk about Apple, right? You can't talk about Apple without... Wait, I missed some people in the chat. Oh, wait a minute. We got Bone Bar. What's up, Bone Bar? How you doing, bro? How you doing? And we got, Ethnic and CDF out there. Okay, so, like I was saying, you really can't talk about anything Apple-related without having the greatest Apple tech journalist alive today to come stop by the show. That's right, baby. Renee Ritchie will be on Friday Night Vyper tonight. Oh, yes. Renee will be here in about half an hour. Also, we got another, we actually got another one. We have a first-time visitor to Friday Night Vyp tonight. One of the best Apple channels on YouTube. The man Chris, you call him Daily Tech, and coming to Friday Night Vyper tonight, baby. Woo-hoo! Oh, yes. I also asked my dude, I don't know if he's going to show up, but I asked the legendary Apple Sheep, Taylor Tech, to stop by. Don't know if he is, but I'm going to drop him in the link, and we'll see what happens with that. But we might get a visit from Drew, the Apple Sheep. Taylor Tech might be here, too. Also, I asked another first-timer to stop into the show tonight. My man is about to hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. One of the realest cats on the platform. We might get a visit. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we may get a visit from Mr. J. Williams himself on Friday Night Vyp tonight. Woo! Oh, yes. Heavy hitters are inbound tonight, bro. But, you know, even with all the Jony Ive stuff happening, I don't really want to start there tonight. Tonight, I want to start off by talking about life. There, unfortunately, there's bad stuff that happens all the time, but unfortunately, this week, we lost one of the best creators on the YouTube platform. Most of you guys know what happened with Etika. He took his own life. And it's sad because, you know, life is so precious. I mean, no matter what's going on in life, you know, life is good, life is bad, but at some point, you have to stop and realize that your life is valuable, your life is precious, and you have to live your best life. You have to live every day like it's your last. I don't know what was going on with Etika. Obviously, he was going through some mental anguish, and unfortunately, he decided to take his own life. It's just sad because he was one of the more popular creators on YouTube, and I think he was on Twitch too, and he was doing big things in the digital space. But like I said, apparently, as it is a lot with what you see on the internet, everything that you see is not exactly what you get. So prayers up for Etika and his family as they go through this tough time. But like I said, I want to sit back and talk about how valuable life is before we get into the Apple stuff. Like I said earlier, life is precious. We only get one life. You have to live your best life. You don't know if you're going to see it tomorrow. I think one of the greatest things about being a human being is that we are all marked for death. Now, some of y'all probably like, dang, Viper, that's kind of like morbid and like not really the best outlook, but you got to listen up. You got to pay attention to what I'm saying, though. The greatest thing about being human is that we know we're going to die. Like, there is a finite shelf life on being a human being. Nobody lives forever. So the fact that as a human being, you know at some point you're going to die means that you hold life more precious. You value life more precious than if you knew that your life would never end. Like, because you know your life is going to end, it makes life that much more valuable because, like I said, you never know which day is going to be your last. So it makes you kind of take everything into perspective when you think about the fact that nothing in life is guaranteed. You don't know what day is going to be your last. You could be completely healthy and die tomorrow. You could be unhealthy AF and die 10 years from now. You just don't know. Like, you just don't know. So life is precious. Life is short. I just want to let you all know that go out there, live your best life. Don't let nothing hold you back. Nobody is going to take care of you like you do. And that's true of any situation, anybody. You are going to take care of yourself better than anybody else can take care of you. You got to put yourself first. Yeah, it may sound selfish and whatnot, but you got to take care of your needs, your wants, your desires first and foremost before you can take care of anybody else. It's crazy out here, man. Like, the world is a crazy place. There's all types of stuff going on. You just don't know what's going to happen next. Like, nobody knows the future. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. And like I said, it's just sad thinking about what happened with Etika. Like, he was out there living his best life, but for whatever reason, it wasn't enough for him. and he did what he did. But it's, man, you gotta find the good in your life. Life isn't always good. Life isn't always bad. But whatever it is, it's precious, and you only get one. Whatever your situation is, you have the power to change your situation. Nobody's going to give you anything, but if you want to change your situation, you can change your situation. Like, nobody can take that away from you. You have the power to change your own situation, and I would highly recommend that you do that. If you find yourself in an undesirable situation, take your life back. Go be the change that you seek. I promise you, if you do that, if you take your life back, if you take the power that you have over your own life, if you take that power and use it for the pursuit of your own happiness, you will not go wrong. That is the best way to live life. I personally had a real life realization 2 years ago when I lost my mother. She passed away, unfortunately, back in May of 2017. And I decided that then and there that I was going to live my best life because, I mean, what am I doing here? You know, I felt like when my mother was alive, I was kind of living in a comfort zone. But when she died, I kind of like got out of my comfort zone and I began to live my best life because I knew that at that point, nothing was guaranteed. You know, when you're a kid and no matter how old you are, you think that you will have your parents forever. And then something happens and you lose your parents. And it just changes your whole perspective on life. So I went out here after my mother died and I decided to live my best life every single day. And I've been doing it ever since. I decided to start a YouTube channel back in 2018. Even though I knew that the tech space was like already saturated AF, I didn't care. Like, what do I have to lose by starting a tech channel? And I'm so glad that I decided to start a tech channel because if I didn't start the tech channel, we wouldn't be here tonight. So thank God that I decided to live my best life and start a tech channel so I could talk to you all each and every week about tech, life, whatever the case may be. I'm here talking to you all. If you need somebody to talk to, if you want to say hi or whatever the case may be, I tell you guys every video, hit my Twitter. I tell you every video. I am on Twitter. I am available to you. I know everybody does like the whole Discord thing, and that's all cute and cuddly. I don't have time for that. But if you want to talk to me directly, my Twitter is open. Hit my Twitter at Viper. Y'all know what it is. You've been on my Twitter. You follow me. You know what's up. Hit the Twitter. I will be happy to talk to you all. Just let me know. Just hit me up. I mean, life is so strange. Like 2 years ago, I had somebody in my life, and things didn't go the way that I thought they would go, and I cut that person out of my life. But here we are 2 years later, and I decided to let that person back into my life because I'm not one to hold grudges. So the person that I cut out of my life 2 years ago, I let back into my life this year, and it's probably the best decision I've ever made in my life. So allowing that person back into my life is the single best decision I have ever made, and it's completely changed my outlook on life, allowing that person back into my life. So you got to just like take stock of what's in front of you and then act and adjust accordingly. Like I keep saying it over and over again. Live your best life. I don't know what that entails for you. What living your best life means to you will be different from what it means to me, but it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is your happiness. Whatever you find, whatever you can identify in life that makes you happy, go after it. If you have a dream, go after it. If you have a goal or you have something that you want to do, go after it. What is stopping you? If some of you are watching this live stream right now or listening to the replay and you want to start a YouTube channel, start the damn channel already. What are you waiting for? Like, your life is not promised. Tomorrow is not promised to you. Everybody wants to wait for a perfect time to start a YouTube channel. There is no perfect time. When I started last year, it wasn't a perfect time. I learned as I go. I'm still learning. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm not the best YouTuber out there, but I learned something new every day about being on this platform and talking to you guys. Like Doug Houston says in the chat, if you want to start a YouTube channel, start now. If you want to start another endeavor in your life, start now. Whatever it is that you want to do, start now. Don't wait. You might not have tomorrow. Tomorrow is not promised to you. So quit bullshitting, quit procrastinating, and do what you want to do. Go live your best life. Start now. That's the best thing that I can tell anybody. Start now. Because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't even know if you're going to wake up tomorrow. There is no guarantee that you will wake up tomorrow. So whatever it is that you want to do, or you've been holding off on, or whatever dream or bucket list or activity you have, whatever it is that you want to do, please, God, please start now. Start now. And basically, that's what I want to say about life. I'm not going to harp on it too long because, I mean, it is what it is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up my Twitter here. Or my Mac, I have a tweet bot, whatever the hell it is. I'm going to send out these links to the people that I asked to come on the show. And we will see what happens with that. And yeah, hold on. Let me click here. All right. And we got copy. All right. So we got the link on deck. Hopefully I do this correctly. All right. So we got daily tech. I think that's it. Yep, that should be it. All right. Cool. All right. Got that one out. And then we're going to go to Renee Ritchie and send Renee a link. And then we're going to go find my man Taylor for Tech and see if he wants to hop in or not. I guess we'll find out when I send this link. Because I have no idea. I asked him if he wanted to come in, but he never gave me like a hardcore response. So I don't know what Drew is doing out there. But Drew, if you're listening, link is in your Twitter DM. So if you want to come in, Drew, feel free. So when this Jony Ive thing went down yesterday, people on Twitter were asking me my reaction, and I didn't really have one at the time. I kind of wanted to like just sit back and think about it before I came out. I didn't want to come out with a video that wasn't really like so quick to the punch. I wanted to like kind of like have a chance to reflect, you know. I wanted to think about things and get some more information before I came out with how I felt. So Jony Ive has been with Apple or have been with Apple or actually still is with Apple for 30 plus years. That is a very long time to be with one company. And as all the different reactions I was reading on social media and the internet said, being with a company for 30 years, being in one spot, doing the same thing over and over again for 30 years, even if you love that company, even if you love doing what you're doing, at some point you are going to want a change. So I am not surprised. I'm not mad. I respect Jony Ive's decision to go out and start his own company. He is more than capable of doing so. He is one of the top designers in the field of tech. He will be just fine. He will do great things. I just find it kind of weird that his company, Love From, that's the name of his company, it's called Love From, and their first client happens to be Apple, which is really weird because we know how secretive Apple is about different products and things like that. So I don't know. It kind of makes me chuckle, and I wonder, like, now that Jony Ive is no longer officially Apple, like, how much will Apple let him in? I mean, obviously he's family to Apple. He was basically partly responsible for the resurgence of Apple back in the 90s when it went down in the tubes. Him and Steve Jobs were practically responsible for the resurgence of Apple. They brought Apple back from the dead, man. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, what do you want to do? You know, I mean, I don't know. It's like, what do you, I don't know. It's weird. So I posted a question of the live stream. I posted a question. Is this the end of the Steve Jobs era Apple? Because that seems to be the general consensus that people are taking. That's the hot take that it is the end of the Steve Jobs era. I'm not so sure. I mean, I know Steve Jobs and was the mastermind. I know Jony Ive was practically his right-hand man. But I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people that worked under Steve Jobs when he was alive and things like that. And I'm pretty sure a lot of those people are with Apple right now, even though they're practically under a new regime with Tim Cook and Jeff Williams. But I'm not sure if Steve Jobs and Apple is completely dead. Obviously, when you're talking about product pipelines and things like that, Apple is like years ahead of the curve. So you're going to be feeling the Jony Ive effect for at least the next, 5-6 years probably. So it is what it is. All right, let me just send some text out real quick. There we go. All right, cool. So yeah, it's the pipeline is in place. So people that are spelling doom and gloom for Apple, you might want to pump the brake. I don't think it's going to be that simple. It usually never is with big time corporations. But the Jony Ive effect is going to be around for a little while longer, even after he's gone. Now, these people that they put in place, I know they got Jeff Williams, who's the chief operations officer, and they put a couple other hardware designers and leads and things like that in the position. I don't know how they're going to do. We know that lately Apple has had some hardware hiccups, MacBook keyboard being chief among them. Other things with iPhone having issues and Bingate and things like that. I mean, Apple hardware has had its issues. It seems like every year or every other week there's a different there's a new class action lawsuit covering something Apple hardware related. So we know that the Apple hardware isn't what it used to be. But even under Steve Jobs, it wasn't perfect. So I don't know. I mean, but it will be interesting to see where Apple hardware goes in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. Actually, in the next 10 years, like I said, 5 years down the line, we will still be feeling the Jony Ive effect. But 10 years from now, how will Apple hardware look? Will Apple even still be a primarily hardware company? We don't know, but I know somebody who might. My man Taylor will say, "What's up, Drew? How you doing, bro?"
Hey, that was a great segue. Thanks for having me on, Viper. Appreciate it. Good to be here.
I'm bringing in all the heaviness tonight, though. We got to talk about this, Drew. We got to talk about it.
Absolutely. I was not expecting that. I don't think many were expecting that. That dude's been working for Apple since ever. He's been there so long. I think he's been there longer than Apple's existed without him at this point.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
The bulk of Apple's history has had Jony Ive present in it. So yeah, it's similar to the Steve Jobs passing. Luckily, this one didn't have to end with a death, but it's going to be a big transition for them to see if they can still sustain themselves. I think they've proven that Apple's much more of a team effort since Steve Jobs is gone, since they've still been able to create lots of innovative and world-changing products since the Steve Jobs era has ended. So in my mind, that means that, they've still got it. They've still got the magic, and I hope they still have it post Jony Ive as well.
I do too. But I am curious, Drew. We know that Jony Ive went off to start his own company, Love From. Apple is their very first client. But even though Jony Ive's family, we know how secretive Apple is with products and things like that. So I'm curious. I wonder how much will they let Jony Ive in now that he's
That's a good question.
Now that he's not really a part of Apple, in the inner sanctum anymore. He's on the outside now. So how much control, how much input will he have moving forward?
Yeah, can we get him on some more podcasts? Can we get Johnny on Friday Night Vyper, please?
Right.
I'm in favor of that. If he leaves the company, he won't have as many contracts to keep things on the DL for, so we can talk more about what he knows. And I don't know, he might be just that kind of secretive guy. I don't think he's on any social media officially.
No. We know he's a knight. He's Sir Jony Ive. That's all we know.
Sir Jony Ive. Right? I'm more interested in what companies he'll also work with. Is he going to work with Apple competitors, or maybe because he loves Apple so much, or because he has such close ties with Apple, will he actively choose to not work with any Google, Samsung, or anything like that? Because I'm sure there's probably a big line of tech companies that would love to contract him. They'd be willing to pay a lot.
Oh yeah, and to that point, and to that point, will he even be allowed to work with Apple competitors? Because maybe there's something in the contract that states that there's a non-compete clause. I mean, there has to be something in there. We know how tight Apple is with that stuff. So
that's true.
How much rope will he have, even though he's outside of Apple?
That's another good point. We probably won't know till next year once we find out who starts working with him. But can't you imagine, if companies start advertising that as a selling point, the Pixel 5 designed by Jony Ive? Yeah. They start using that as their selling point. Hey, Apple basically made this.
Maybe they'll start to sell some finally.
Yeah. And will he be able to diversify? Because he's been working exclusively with Apple for so long. Will he be able to design products without the signature Apple-esque look for other companies with different branding and stuff like that? Or will every phone Jony Ive designs from here on out just look like an iPhone still?
Or maybe he'll just move on from phones entirely. I mean, he's been doing phones for like, what, 10 years now? Maybe he's ready for something different.
I wouldn't blame him for wanting to move on. That's what I brought up in my videos. Anyone could work for any company, even if it was the greatest company in the world. If you work there for nearly 30 years, you'll probably be ready for something else. You want to mix it up a little bit. So he's all they really said in the statement was, like personal projects, whatever that means. So, but he can do whatever he wants. Yeah, the man probably has billions of dollars by now.
Oh yeah, he got some Apple stock. He's good to go. He's well off.
He can basically, I don't know why he just doesn't retire. Maybe he loves working. He probably loves designing things, but I hope Tesla reaches out to him and see if they can design some kind of future car with his innovative vision. That would be interesting.
That would be interesting. And speaking of Tesla, there have been talks about Apple possibly acquiring Tesla, although I don't think it's going to happen. But since their Jony Ive is gone, wouldn't Elon Musk be an absolute bomb replacement?
Oh, yeah, that would be an interesting replacement. I think Elon's got a little too much on his plate, though. Oh, yeah. He doesn't have too much free time. Yeah, but I would love to see more cooperation between those two companies, just because they have so much shared ideologies already. It's like, you guys are so similar. Why don't you talk it up? Why don't you guys communicate with each other and kind of build some Tesla room in that ecosystem or something like that? But yeah, both companies, they have similar ideologies, but both are kind of arrogant in towards their own ways. So
yeah. Speaking of Apple and Tesla and things like that, we have been joined by the world's greatest Apple tech journalist himself, Renee Ritchie, is in the building. What's up, Renee?
Not much. I thought you were going to say, speaking of arrogant, Renee's here.
Never. But before we let Renee jump in here, Drew, you know what I'm most about Jony Ive, right, Drew?
Those beautiful voiceovers.
Yes. The way he's describing an iPhone like this, and he says aluminum. I mean, who can replace that? Who's going to replace that? Nobody, Drew. Nobody.
No, you can't top that. Maybe that's the one contract, like they said, he'll still be working with Apple. Love From will be an exclusive voiceover company.
Wouldn't that be something? Renee, how you doing tonight, man?
Good, man. How you doing? It's good to see you guys.
So both you and Drew put out a video about this whole Jony Ive situation. But Renee, you've been covering Apple. God, I can't even keep track now. Why did Jony Ive leave Apple, Renee? Why did he leave?
He was done. I mean, he did everything. What else am I going to do? He wants to make hot tubs. He wants to make jet planes. He can't do that at Apple.
He should be able to.
He should get anything. Hot tub. Hey Siri, bubbles. Now she's playing bubbles. Hey Siri, stop.
Come on, Renee. You know how finicky she is.
Just trying to please. I know, but it's hard.
Then she raises the temperature 20 degrees on it.
Yeah, no, but I think it's just that simple. I mean, like, Apple doesn't have a wide range of products, and he gets to stretch his muscles a little bit with product Red, but those are so small and such, like, or make a Christmas tree every 10 years or something. And it's probably, after 30 years of that kind of pressure, having to deliver an iPhone every year, an iPad every 18 months, new Macs because, oh God, we can't stand your last Macs. Like, it's just a lot. And if he wants to do anything else, especially with Mark Newsom, who feels like it's his real collaborator since Steve Jobs passed away, and they want to do all sorts of small things and precious things, it seems like he needs an environment other than Apple.
So, Renee, do you have any idea, like, what he might be working on moving forward that's, like, non-Apple related?
They said wearables, which sounds like a collab opportunity to me, but I think we'll see a bunch of little bespoke things, like the kind of stuff that he and Mark have already been working on across different industries. Like, who knows, Jony Ive apparel. I mean, I don't know how far it's going to
Jony Ive apparel.
I would buy that.
Everyone deserves those sweaters. Everyone deserves those sweaters. Chris, so good.
Hey. Oh, yes. We have been joined by Daily Tech himself, Mr. Chris. How you doing, bro?
What's up? Thanks for having me on.
No problem, man. We're talking about Jony Ive leaving Apple, man. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, my thoughts are Renee's thoughts because he knows a lot better than I do. No, I mean, it's a little bit emotional. You know, it was weird. I was at One Infinite Loop for the first time the other day, and I got a little bit emotional, and I was not expecting that. And I feel like people have these connections to places and people involved with Apple, whether it's rational or not. And so I think it's like okay to be a little bit bummed, obviously, that he's leaving. I think it just makes sense for a lot of people, but at the same time, kind of excited though to see what happens.
Oh God, who's going to be put into the vault? Because they used to keep Johnny's team in a vault in Infinite Loop, like a literal vault. And now it's all Eddie Q's people. So like, is it the team he doesn't like? Like if iWork is slow to ship, does iWork have to go into the vault?
I can see
Renee,
that.
Renee, you were talking about all the crazy hot takes that came out when we found out this news yesterday about people like going the complete wrong way with it, man. It was crazy.
No, I mean it's one of the sad parts about our industry is that a lot of mainstream publications cover Apple because it's just such a big headline and gets so much attention, but they're not Apple beat reporters. And even if they are, it's like they've got 3 beats. One of them is like potholes, one of them is Apple, and one of them is weather. And they know each of them exactly the same amount. And then they've got to write all these big Apple stories, and they sort of pick at random what they think Apple is doing without Jony Ive. There's like 8 of them write that one. And then, is Jony Ive going to start, making barbecues, and 8 of them write that one. And it seems like a huge missed opportunity because everyone wants to be first and hottest and not necessarily sort of think about the people involved or what it means like from an Apple point of view. Because whether you agree or disagree with what Apple's doing, they're not predictable, but they don't pull like crazy Ivans. They don't do a lot of just weird stuff all the time. They do a fairly limited amount of things, and they do them fairly consistently. So I just think it behooves everyone when we stick to, the kind of people in this, like the analysis in this room, like sensible, based on actual facts,
Right.
And you double check them a couple times before you hit publish.
Nah.
Come on, Renee. Nobody double checked anything before they hit
Apple
publish.
would never. Here's 3 examples when they did. Oh,
Yeah. It happens so much these days.
Oh, all the time. So let's talk about that a little bit more, Renee, because I said earlier that Apple will still be feeling the Jony Ive effect for at least the next 5 years, but you know better than I do. How long will his legacy last now that he's almost out the door?
So it depends on the product. And that's sort of what I was trying to say yesterday. It's that if you talk to certain people, they haven't really seen him since Steve passed away. And if you talk to other people, they haven't really seen too much of him since he started working on Apple Park. But if you talk to other people, they're like, damn, I still got to present to him all the time. And he's not any easier to deal with. So I don't know what you people are talking about. So a lot of the stuff that he cared about, that kind of stuff is going to have his input. Some of it still hasn't shipped. Some of it was designed 3 years ago and still hasn't shipped. Some of it was designed 5 years ago and still hasn't shipped. And that kind of stuff we'll be seeing come out over the next few years. And other stuff he just really wasn't that involved with. And that stuff will start coming out real quick. That didn't really have, he was part of the discussion around it, but it wasn't sort of a passion project that he directed. Like, I think he was really interested in promotion, and he was really interested in a lot of the camera and a lot of the technology around that. But there were other parts of the software, probably like the home stuff, like he didn't really pay much attention to. Right. And that kind of stuff we'll see turnover real fast.
So, Chris, I'm interested. Are there products out there that you would like to see Jony Ive work on now that he's no longer tied with Apple?
Oh man, now that he's not, that's an interesting question because I sort of like have a design background. I think Renee does too. Like in college, I studied that. It was completely worthless. The only good thing about college was meeting my wife.
Dang, dude. Exactly.
Hey, I was an icon designer for an enterprise database company. Can you think of how many ways I wanted to end it?
Yes, I can. But as a designer though, it's like fun to dig into different things. If you get like in a rut, I understand like how he would be super excited to try something else. And I'm happy for him to be able to do that, honestly. So whatever it is, like if it's a car or if it's like a chair or whatever, I think it's going to be fun for him and for whoever else gets to experience that and be part of it too.
Yeah, it's interesting that now he's no longer a part of Apple, that he has pretty much his choice of what he wants to do, who he wants to work with. But like I was talking to Drew earlier about, Renee, how much rope does Jony Ive have? Because I'm pretty sure there's like clauses in his Apple contract that says that he probably can't work with certain companies and things like that, or he can't work on certain like product types. I mean, I'm pretty sure Apple has some ties in somewhere that limits him a little bit.
Yeah, and he wouldn't want. But I mean, like, I know if he starts making sunglasses, you're like first in line.
Of course, absolutely.
Hey, so did you guys already talk about the role of chief design officer, like not really being filled and what that means?
Nope. Break it down for us.
I don't know. I mean, I'm curious what you guys think because
Cheese
Apple.
graters everywhere.
The new iPhone is a cheese grater. Yeah, small.
Yes.
Oh, microplane. Microplane.
It seems like 2019 is the year of the holes. They like the holes everywhere. That's what I keep seeing. But what I wanted to ask you guys is like, do you think people are wrong to assume that because of this, we should expect drastic changes in hardware and software in the future? Or should we just basically assume that it's going to continue in the direction it's been going in the past few years?
You're asking if they're like their parents, because that's the thing, right? Like if you liked your parents, you continue the family business and you want to make them proud. But if you never really liked your parents, the minute you can, you're like, screw that, I'm going the complete opposite direction.
Right,
I'm gonna be like you, old man.
Well, I don't know. Was it you, Renee, or was it Gruber? I was reading both of what you guys said, and it's like everybody has to quit working at Apple at some point, whether it's the executives or the engineers or the designers. And so like you have to have the soul of the company like intact, and that's like the bigger product that actually matters. That made a lot of sense to me.
They don't have Jeff is an incredibly caring product person, but he's not an interface designer. He's not an industrial designer. He talks about, you know, the impact of products, probably because he's been working on Apple Health for years. He's had to think deeply about privacy and about repercussions and really making a very considerate decision about everything that his part of the company touches. And I don't see him saying like, no, this has to be 3 shades bluer, the way Steve would say it, or talk about the differences in photorealism versus digital authenticity, the way, you know, Alan Dye would do it. But I can see him leading that group, and he's got really good taste from everything that I've heard. He's been super involved in Apple Watch, that he's going to sort of, spoiler alert, I have a video going up in a few minutes with me and Gruber talking about all this. And the thing is, like, Jony Ive and Scott Forstall hated each other. They could not be in the same room together, so they could never have worked together. But if they could, you would have had a really strong industrial designer and a really strong human interface lead making really good products, but that just couldn't be. But Evans and Richard can work together. They've been working together for years, and everyone in Apple has to have an owner. It's just the way it is. So they have to have a senior vice president, and that being Jeff is probably really good, because we'll get a little bit more of that. Like with Jony, like the interface will always lose to the hardware, and his hardware was so minimal that the interface needed to be more considerate, but he kept wanting to make it more minimal. And that was probably didn't do a service to either of them. But if they're arguing it out all the time and saying, no, if you're going to ship just a plain piece of glass, I swear to God, it's got to have borders around those buttons. You know, that's probably a fight we want them to win.
So would you say it's a better idea to try to take it or try to replace Johnny's position with someone of a different mindset that's better in liking to the people who are complaining with a lot of the more recent, you know, the butterfly keys or the trash can Mac Pro? Or would it be better to try to find someone who kind of can imitate what Jony did for the company? Because clearly that got them a lot of success too.
I'm going to give my best Siracusa approach. Like Siracusa had this thing that was so smart so long ago. It's like when Pixar got sold to Disney, you no longer got the heights of genius, but you didn't get the big misses either. You know, it's sort of like they took the edges off of both. And when Steve Jobs left Apple, it was the same thing. You didn't get all Steve's brilliant ideas, but you didn't get his really bad ones either. Right. And it's probably the same. Like with Jony, like he had flashes of amazing inspiration, but also things that didn't turn out so well. And when you have I don't want to say committee, but when you have a bunch of people who are all super well trained and passionate and they argue it out, they can sometimes, they won't get the same flashes of brilliance all the time, but they'll probably avoid the worst of the missteps.
Yeah, but don't you guys think it's a little bit, it's like the Ford thing. Like if people had asked Ford, you know, to build something, it would have been like a faster horse, but he came out with the actual car. You know what I mean? Like I kind of miss like Apple when it works out good, like saying like, here's this thing. You didn't even know you wanted it, but it's awesome. Like I like that. And sometimes there are misfires, but I like to have somebody in charge like doing that.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't have that iPad market that we do now without that sort of mindset of just like, no, there's a different way to experience the computer or to use one. Otherwise, if everyone was just kind of stuck in their old traditional ways, the iPad probably never would have taken off, because they're like, needs a mouse, needs a keyboard, put desktop apps on it, and then boom. Now it's a laptop replacement because it's a laptop.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the other thing though is with in iOS 6 with Steve and Scott, they thought that was the pinnacle. Like they didn't want to get it any more complicated because it was supposed to be the computer for the rest of us. And they like canned things like AirDrop several times. Nope, not shipping it, too complicated. And then Craig took over and he was like, "That's amazing, let's do it." And so a lot of people, I think, who kind of bemoan the loss of Force also would be super unhappy if the iPad wasn't allowed to grow up and sort of try to balance between people who don't find computers addressable, but also people who want them to do computery things.
It's interesting the dynamic that will take place now that Jony is pretty much out the door. But I'm interested to get you guys' thoughts, because it wasn't too long ago that Angela Arndt left the company. Now Jony Ive I'm pretty much on his way out the door. So do you guys feel like this puts like a taint Apple's reputation a little bit, or is it just business as usual?
I don't think your average everyday person is even going to notice or care. Like, we're in the Apple circle, like we're reading about it. I mean, people aren't even going to know. It's going to be like a little blip. They're going to keep using their iPhone. Like my parents, no offense if they ever see this, like I'm surprised all the stuff they don't know about it. But I'm like a power user. And I'm like, you're not using this little tiny feature that I love and use all the time. Like that's what I think everybody's going to be like. They're not really going to notice it.
My dad was an IBM engineer, and he asked me how to get photos off his iPhone. He had no idea.
Different times.
Okay, so that's interesting that you bring that up, Chris, because while I agree that might be the case with Angela, I think people are going to notice that Jony Ive flip. I mean, you're talking about that iconic voiceover. I mean, the man that was the master of the design of the iPhone, iPad, iPod. I mean, I think even the average consumer will know that know who he is, and know that Apple might be different that now he's not there.
Well, I think it will be different. And to some extent, people have to notice, whether they realize it's Jony Ive, that didn't leave his mark on something eventually or not. I mean, they're going to notice. But at the same time, I'd like to give Apple a fair shot. Like it has to happen at some point. He's going to leave at some point. I would like to say that Apple is going to be able to move on. You have to believe that they can.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you don't become $1 trillion company without backup plans. So we know that Apple has some backup plans, and they have very good people in place to take over. I mean, and plus this did not just happen overnight. Like, this was planned. I mean, Jony Ive was slowly fading into the background anyway, so he was always on his way out. So you have to believe that Apple had plans in place for the eventual day that he decided to go off on his own.
Well, and you have to have the bus, like any responsible company, just with corporate governance, has to have the hit by a bus strategy. Like, what if Tim, what if Johnny, what if Phil, what if they get hit by a bus tomorrow? It's part of their jobs to make sure that the company can keep going.
Right.
I think Steve Jobs is the most recognizable name, but Jony Ive and Tim Cook are probably the far behind second and third. So I agree with what you're saying, that most people off the street probably wouldn't know or care. But if there is someone to leave Apple that people would know about, I think Jony Ive is definitely probably one of the more noticeable ones out of all the people who do work there, just out of the length of time he's been there and the things he's known for. But yes, I agree that the average consumer probably won't know.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like more of a symbolic thing, I think, for a lot of people, because he did work with these larger than life figures, and he's kind of like the last of that group in a way that people really knew about from the old days, kind of.
Right. So further highlighting that, Chris, do you feel like the title of this live stream, do you feel like the departure of Jony Ive is the end of the Steve Jobs era at Apple?
No, I don't think that, because I think Steve, from what I understand, sort of tried to, I hate using this word, but institutionalize a little bit some of the magic that made Apple Apple. And so hopefully the good stuff. And let's be honest, things are going to change, whether it's, this departure or somebody else, or just anyways. And so to be able to adapt, there's going to be something that people don't like in the future. And that's fine, because I think you have to have that along with whatever's good that's coming down the pipeline too, I think.
And Phil's still there for now. Jaws is still there. Eddie's still there.
Craig.
Yeah, Craig. I mean, there's so many. That company's still run by Next, basically.
To me, the Steve Jobs era ended when Steve Jobs died. Everything past that is what his legacy and his influence has brought to other people that are still currently there. So Jony Ive is a piece of it, but it's definitely not the last of it. So I would disagree.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I think I agree with you guys that the this is not really the end of the Steve Jobs era. Like Drew said, he kind of institutionalized his ideology into that company. I mean, Steve Jobs is the very fabric of Apple. I mean, that's not something that you can take away from Apple, regardless of who comes or who goes. Like Steve Jobs' ideologies and beliefs will always be ingrained in Apple, and whatever Apple does will always be a derivative of something Steve Jobs came up with, because that's just how that company works.
I think I partially agree, but just to play the devil's advocate, I mean, like, when you say the fabric of Apple, I mean, in a way, aren't we as the users also really the fabric of Apple? Because at the end of the day, ultimately, they don't sell any products. It's not working out. You know what I mean? Like, so with every iPhone that we buy or whatever, and service that we use, you know, like, really, we're the feedback loop that keeps things going.
Oh, absolutely. I can, yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, you have to be able to cater to your market, your customer base, no doubt.
We're all blankets.
We're all blankets. So I got a tough question for all you gents. So, Chris, I'll start with you. What is your favorite Jony Ive inspired Apple product?
I don't know. I guess the thing that I'm gonna have to say is the iPhone, because that's what I use the most through all its iterations.
Okay, which iPhone has the best design in your opinion?
You know, that's tough, because part of me likes whatever's out right now, because that's what I'm using. And then
Same.
the further stuff gets in the rearview mirror, then you start to think, well, maybe that was better. And so I don't know. I like the first one I ever had, actually. It took me a while to get one. It was the 4S, I think. And so I feel kind of nostalgic about that. It was smaller, it had different edges. So I remember that one fondly anyways.
4S, okay. For me, I would say the iPhone 5 was probably my favorite, because you had the chamfered edges, the two-tone back. It was just that phone, the design was just like, oh, yeah, still probably one of the best phone designs to this day, man.
Yeah, it's funny when you say that, when people say like, "Oh, Apple's cheaping out," and then you realize how much they had to pay to chamfer an edge that nobody would have cared if they hadn't chamfered it.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Renee, what's your favorite Jony Ive inspired product?
I think just nostalgically, it's always going to be the first iPhone. And, you know, I don't think it's the best. I don't think it's the most iconic. You know, you can make an argument for the iMac for a lot of different products, but it was just, it was that revolution. It was that thing that made Apple into not a household name, but a thing that everybody had in their households. And it had the bead blasted aluminum, and it had, you know, like all the hallmarks of what Apple was known for. And it wasn't what he wanted. When you look at the patent applications, it was clearly what he could do at the time. But I think just as in terms of a product that they realized, it's sort of like I don't want to say peak Jony by any means, but it was very, very Jony.
Mm.
Yeah, that original iPhone was something else, man. Whew, that was luxurious, man.
Nope, got one here. See, so
Mm-hmm.
it looks tiny.
Nice.
It's iPhone now.
Still got one.
Renee,
So tiny.
What else is just hanging out around your desk, man?
I was doing B-roll, so I have just a ton of old iPhones here, like the old plastics. They're all fun.
Wow.
Dang, dude.
woo. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised given who you are, but I'm just like, wow, Renee, like, man.
Broken
He's
and
ready.
fixed antennas. Those are always awesome. Broken antenna, and I think I have a fixed antenna around here somewhere.
Mm.
So, Drew, I know you said that you're more of a prisoner of the moment when it comes to like best design Jony Ive Apple product, but do you have like anything that stands out?
To play kind of millennial mindset here, I'll go with the Apple Watch because I think there was a lot more pressure for a new product category after Steve Jobs passed away, because, I mean, Steve Jobs revealing the iPhone, I wish more movies and documentaries went to that point, because I feel like that was almost peak Steve Jobs, like getting to the point of like, he knew technology could change the world and how it would change the world, and that was impacting in a way further than that of even the personal PC, of the idea of just people just being able to buy computers, now being able to pocket it, and how that grew into the app market and the app store, and how many people just, that's their job now by designing apps for that platform. Like, that was all incredible, but for him to pass and then people to be like, oh, you're never going to get that again, you're never going to achieve something of that level of groundbreaking or that level of innovative, the pressure was like really, really on for the Apple Watch to be a success, or for Apple to come up with any new product category that was supposed to, you know, not necessarily top the iPhone, but just be as noteworthy or as groundbreaking. And I think being still, I think right when the Apple Watch came out, that was when I was starting to make tech videos, and I still remember how the media just trashed it and was convinced it wasn't going to be a thing. Everyone was like, no, this isn't it. Oh, this is proof that they can't be what they used to because Steve is gone. But I feel like Jony's design and Apple's intelligence with what a smartwatch is supposed to be, because there were tons of other smartwatches out before the Apple Watch, but none of them truly got it like Apple did. And now they're like the number one blowing up, you know, wearables, and that market is just insanely taken off in regards to the wearables department. So I would say that was them proving that it wasn't, you know, they weren't all just piggybacking off of Steve. They knew how to make something incredible as a team, not just one man show.
Definitely. And further to your point, Drew, it is interesting about how under Jony Ive, Apple, they were never really first with a particular product category, but when they entered the realm,
Yes.
it was the best, sexiest, like stunning, most Jony Ive badass design product of that time. And it just like changed that particular industry. And they did this time and time again. And it's just like amazing. And that's a credit to Jony Ive and his design, like ideology and the way he goes about designing products. Like, because like I said, they were never really first with a product category, but when they came in there with their entry into that category, it turned heads every time.
Yes, well, I think the watch is a classic example of the Apple knowing what we want before we know we want it. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I'm seeing Drew's AirPods over there, and I'm thinking about, you know, when the AirPods came out, a lot of people were making fun of that design.
Another
because it was weird hanging down.
Yeah.
And now how many ripoffs do you see where it's white and they're hanging down, but it's a little bit uglier though?
Yes. And it's only $20. It sounds just as good.
That was like the iPod too. Remember, it's not a Nomad, lame.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So we got a question of the chat about your favorite iPhone in color. I answered it. I know Renee answered it. Chris, what will be your favorite iPhone in color?
Yeah, so yeah, I have this thing, right? Whatever I have, I want what I don't have. And so like I have the blue 10R, and I'm wishing that I had gotten like yellow or something now. Because like, man, I just want something that changes colors all the time without like a D brand or something. But I do have the blue because I do like it. And I also like the classic black. That's too hard to pick. I just want whatever I don't have.
But out of the ones that you have had, what would you say was your favorite one?
I guess I like the 10R, the blue 10R that I do have, because it pops a little bit. But then you throw a case on, it's like pointless anyways.
Right. Drew, what about you?
So can you repeat the question for me? Just so we're clear.
Design-wise, what is your favorite iPhone in color, design-wise, that you've owned?
Okay, and it has to exist, right?
Right, that you've owned, right.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd probably... I'd probably play it safe with just the silver 10s Max, because for someone like me with the big hands, that's just like the perfect screen and the thinner bezels. I used the blue 10R for 3-4 months, and I like it, but it just doesn't measure up to what I'm accustomed to with the 10s Max stainless steel and the OLED and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd probably put that on top, and it'll likely change when the 11 comes out.
You know, Drew, I'm glad you mentioned the iPhone 11, because we all know what the renders and schematics have the iPhone 11 looking like. Renee, it's hard to believe that Jony Ive or one of his last designs is this upcoming iPhone 11 with the bug eyes on the back, Renee. Is this Jony Ive or is this post Jony Ive, Renee? What's going on here?
I mean, Richard Howarth, I think, led most of the iPhone 10 design, and I'm assuming unless something changed, and I don't think it's changed, he's still leading iPhone design. So, I mean, physics is a jerk, and you want 3 cameras, and you want them to be equidistant so you can do some fancy physics with them, and you need to have a certain amount of Z-index, I'm talking Americans, Z-index, so that they can do what you need to do in the lens stack, and that's wider than the phone. So you can't put it in the middle because you've got all the Face ID stuff, and you've got all the other components. Sometimes you're just stuck with your physics, and it'll probably end up better looking than the renders. Because I remember thinking the iPhone 4 looked bad when I saw the Gizmodo photos back in the day, and then when I saw one in real life, I'm like, oh my god, this is so Braun and Leica, and it's really, really hot. And I don't expect. I mean, every time I look at this, it's going to look like that surprise face emoji to me. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get over that. It's just, and I think I blame Drew for that. Actually,
the Pikachu.
The Pikachu I blame you for, definitely. But I'm gonna wait until I actually look at it and see it in the colors, in the finish, the different kind of gloss level it has, and what they do, whether the whole thing is black, whether the whole thing is colored, because they have that fancy technology that makes lenses opaque. And I owned a Lumia 1020, and that was not a pretty phone, but man, that camera was fire. So I'm gonna wait till I see it.
Hey, two things to add about this really quick. First of all, look at the Pixel leak, number one. Number two, nobody has done anything drastically different since this iPhone design really came out and looked like this, outside of like folding phones now, right? Like the same basic shape. And I mean, the camera looks a little bit different on the back on, whatever the phone. No one's done something like super insanely different though.
And what's so super annoying is that everyone's like, oh, Jony Ive is leaving. Apple's going to go back to function over form. I hope. And you're like, smart battery case. You all hated it. This camera array, this is completely function over form, and you're all hating on it. So how come your words don't match your deeds?
Thank you, Renee. We needed someone to say that.
Oh man, it's interesting. It's definitely gonna be an interesting time post Jony Ive. But like I said, we're not gonna really get post Jony Ive for a very long time. So everything that's happening now in the immediate future is gonna have some type of Jony Ive influence, because Apple is always like years ahead.
Well, we're talking Jony Ive. Oh, sorry. Can I just bring up a conspiracy theory that I formed in my own head?
Sure.
I was making a video
doesn't like that.
Yeah, that's how I operate. I was making this video about my tour of the Apple Visitor Center, and so I was looking at Google Maps or Apple Maps, whatever, and I was looking down, and on the spaceship, it looks like there's some flaps hanging off the sides, like whatever that metal is that's sticking out. I wonder if that's there. So from the satellite view, you can't see in any of the windows, because like no matter how you look at it, like you can't actually see in any windows. What do you think? Or am I like crazy?
I'm gonna say you're probably not crazy. Because
the visitor center,
if satellite imagery could see things the size of a phone from space, I'd be impressed.
No, not like military style. Somebody's got a satellite out there. But dude, because like you're at the visitor center, you can't even see the spaceship very good, right? Like they don't really want you to see. There's some nice trees. Like they could have got rid of those. You know what I mean?
I mean, you just imagine Steve going, people got out of their car, they're right at IL-1. I don't like this. Let's put them at least 10 minutes away by foot from where we're working. So we're going to build a new place. They get out of the car. They got to walk 10 minutes to get to us.
They could have an observatory that you look in, but they support Apple Pay to turn on, so you can look through the binoculars.
Or Samsung Pay, because nobody has it.
Oh.
Well, not a visitor center.
Oh, man.
How many people use Samsung Pay at the Apple Store? I guess it would work, right?
I've actually seen people walk into like normal Apple stores and say, like, "Can I have $20 worth of iCloud for my boyfriend Samsung?" They're so polite to those in their answers. It's amazing.
We need a reality show about this. That's fascinating.
Oh, don't say it. Eddie Q will greenlight that so fast.
New services, Apple TV Plus original coming soon.
Oh God!
Tales from the Genius Bar.
Speaking of all these services and whatnot, Renee, when are we going to get like more information and pricing about these services? The only one that we have so far is Apple News Plus. So what's really happening here?
I mean, like, you want to tell you it's $99 for the service stand? I mean, I think the less pricing information they give out before they release stuff, the better these days.
Man, I canceled Apple News. Did you guys keep that News Plus?
I canceled it.
I canceled it after 10 minutes.
And you know what? It still bugs me because I don't have it anymore. It's always advertising to me. Like,
yeah, I actually kind of miss when that didn't exist because it wasn't offering it so much.
It's a little bit annoying, yeah.
I kept it just because it was cheaper than like my Wall Street Journal and a couple other subscriptions.
See, but that's the only thing I cared about, dude. Like the news part, the magazine part, I don't even care about. But that's like 98% of what it is, I feel like.
Yeah, because they show you tech magazines, and it's the same tech magazine they show you for a month, and the articles are 2 months old when they publish a tech magazine.
Yeah,
so
and sometimes they're blocked, and you can take the same thing, go find it for free out on the actual web.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still like in 4 countries. I mean, gotta fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That needs to improve.
Yeah, the Apple News Plus, the implementation of it is very flawed. I think we talked about this a lot when it first came out. There's some things they need to work on with that for sure.
TV Plus, I'm kind of excited for though.
Really?
I am actually, yeah.
Explain, please.
All right. I made a video about this a long time ago. I'm actually excited for something that's like not HBO style, where everything is like, overly bloody and whatever. Like, it's cool to have something else. And Disney's going to come in and kill it at the price point that they're coming in on. I'm excited for that too.
Yeah.
But I am excited for some of the shows, like especially after the sci-fi preview. It might be good. I don't know. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to like it better than Apple News Plus.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting because, like...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
They're betting a lot on original programming, which is a big gamble to make because there's not... I mean, they've got big-name actors, but without knowing the price, there's not a whole incentive and there's not a whole track record history for this subscription service for people to be like, oh, well, I love all the shows that come from there because we have no basis to go off of. So we just kind of hope, and I'll use the free trial, that's for sure. Hopefully I can find a show that's good for me. But yeah, I hope they've got a really, really good one, and it's kind of just betting all on the screenwriters at that point.
Well, look,
I have so many questions. Like my biggest, I understand, like Netflix is getting too expensive for me, and I think when Disney Plus comes, I'm going to look real hard at whether I keep Netflix or not. But
no, because it's losing The Office.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if we had it in Canada. I saw our TV is so different. But like with Netflix or with a lot of the other services, you watch the hot new show that comes out, like you watch Stranger Things, or you watch something, and then you're bored again, and you go watch the catalog content. And with Apple, like they could have the J.J. Abrams show, or they can have the Reese Witherspoon show, Jennifer Aniston show, and then you're finished that, and like there's only 2 shows, and then what do you do because there's no catalog content? And if their answer is, well, channels, I'm like, yeah, but I got to pay $10 a pop for like CBS All Access or for something else. That doesn't solve that problem. So I think they're gonna have to be really think through their pricing model. So that people are willing, I mean, if they even do pricing for this, they could do something else, especially because they're putting it like on Samsung TV. So everything is up in the air with this service at this point.
Well, bundle would help.
They need something else. Yeah, a bundle would help, but also if the TV content is free, but if you want to buy it, you have to do it on iTunes. Like there's all sorts of things they can do, but I just don't see, like if Disney Plus is $8 and Netflix is like, I don't know what it is, $15 or $12 or whatever by now. I don't know what the value prop is for Apple for TV Plus, which only got like 2 or 3 new shows.
Yes, but competition is good. And if Disney's sliding in with this cheap price, Apple's not going to show up on the scene and be like, okay, we give up. They don't want to look bad like immediately,
Yeah, Chris, but you got to admit, though, with Disney Plus sliding in at $8 a month and Apple TV, a virtual unknown, we know what Disney bring. They're bringing Marvel. They're bringing all the Disney properties. I mean, they're bringing heat. And Apple is bringing, we don't even know who. So
you can watch Captain America fight Boba Fett live on television.
Dude, I know that, but all I'm saying is Apple could actually have something like really interesting up its sleeve because we don't know what they're doing. I think everyone's assuming that they're going to charge a lot, and maybe they were going to, and maybe Disney did come in cheaper and they're like, okay, we need to give this away for free right now. And then how many people will be excited? I don't know what they're going to do.
Apple News, and then you get TV Plus for free.
Yeah, get all their worst stuff for a low price.
That might be worth it, actually, just to get rid of the ads for News Plus.
That's the value add.
I mean, but the problem that Apple has right now is that even if they come out with a free trial, after the free trial ends, we have to pay. And the only thing that they have to offer is whatever original program that they'll have available when the service launches. And Disney Plus still has the Disney juggernaut in history way behind it. So how can Apple TV Plus compete with Disney Plus when Disney Plus is like so many miles ahead already?
You gotta think different.
Here, you think different. And look, we were just talking about the original iPhone. Well, this is the original whatever unveiling of Apple TV. And over the next 10 years, it's going to evolve and change, and they're going to do more. It's not just going to be whatever it is when it launches.
Right.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't talk much about bundling at the services event. I thought that was going to be like the main appeal to all these different subscriptions, but I feel like that event was almost so premature because they didn't have any of the pricing figured out yet. And it's almost July and we still haven't had the Apple Card yet. So I'm kind of wondering what the game plan is with all these things.
Hey, so they piqued your interest, right? They got everybody like wondering.
Not me and Viper. We watched those trailers and we're like, yeah, we'll pass.
Oh, for real? You guys didn't like what they had?
No, man.
It didn't pique my interest. I don't know. It feels like they're just showing off how much money they have, which we know they have a lot, but it's like, look at all these celebrities we can afford. But that in experience to me hasn't defined that it's going to be good. That doesn't mean the show's going to be interesting.
Right.
And what those big actors have already done. It's not necessarily all about that. Oh, we'll just watch anything if they're in them. But that's, I guess, what they're betting on. There's a lot of people doing that, but I'm not in that demographic, I guess.
I mean,
yeah. The other thing is just like content overload. Like there's so much to watch. Whether it's
I can't keep up with the
whatever.
services we have now.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's really crowded.
I mean, Apple is betting the house when they bring out Oprah, man. You ain't doing nothing small when you bring out Oprah. When you bring out Oprah, it's
billion
major,
pockets,
bro.
Viper. $1 billion pockets.
Seriously. Like that's major move when you bring out Oprah to the stage. You gotta, because Tim Cook had to go deep into the pockets for that one, man.
I did ask about like subscription overload, and I got like a dirty look. But then after I got the dirty look, I got like an explanation. And their thinking is, back in the day, you walked over to the newsstand and there was a bunch of magazines, and you couldn't buy them all. You couldn't subscribe to every magazine. You had to choose the ones that were most important to you. And no one complained about like, oh, I have magazine stand fatigue. There's way too many magazines on this stand. There's way too many options for me to subscribe to. How am I supposed to subscribe to Maxim and Car and Driver? It's just not right. But now we sort of, because of the web and the internet, we're just used to having everything all the time for nothing. And it's probably not really subscription fatigue, but it's, how dare it not be free content displeasure.
But that's like the main problem with cord cutting right now is that it seems like every studio wants to have their own streaming app.
Yep.
So you got Starz charging what they're charging, HBO charging what they're charging, Showtime is charging what they're charging. And
NBC is working on theirs.
Right, NBC is working on theirs. So eventually it's going to lead us back to the cable bundle anyway, because like you said, there's going to be subscription fatigue. It's going to be too many subscriptions out there.
The bundle is best, but like people hate it on like we've had unbundled TV here for a long time. It's like $20 for 20 channels, $30 for 30 channels. You get to pick whichever channels you want, and people still hate it. But like it's just, I keep going back to, can you imagine if music worked this way? You got to pay for the Warner Music subscription, you got to pay for the AMI music subscription. The Beatles are so famous, you got to pay for them and U2 separately. You got to pay for nobody would be subscribed to music anymore. It works because regardless of what service you subscribe to, Apple Music or Spotify or something else, you get theoretically virtually all the music, and we just don't have that in television because they're afraid of losing the value of their brands and their business and their intellectual property. But no one is going to subscribe to all of these, so they're just hoping that you pick them, and I don't know how tenable that is going forward.
Well, and I also think that even if you want to go to the idea that there's going to be all these different subscription services and that's going to take us back to the cable subscription prices per month, is that cable is still like, at least here, 50% ads. And at least all of these subscription services are, for the most part, offering, like you pay for a service and there's no commercials. And you can also watch it whenever you want instead of a live broadcast. And then you got to record it and then rewind the recording to watch it. It's instead just have it all on a server that you can stream it from. So even if, let's say, all of the major services equaled up to being what a cable bill is, I think it would still result in a better experience overall than what a cable TV package is, because you don't have to worry about all the ads and you can watch it at your own pace, not necessarily just when it comes on, when it airs tonight.
Yeah, and the other thing, Drew, is that I still prefer the cord cutting model anyway, because I can subscribe to the services that I want to.
Exactly.
As opposed to cable, where I gotta just pay for some bundle and get a bunch of channels that I will never watch, I will never need. But with cord cutting, I could just like sign up with the base package and have like ESPN, HBO, have them all together or whatever. Or if I just want HBO, like I did earlier this year, I just signed up for HBO because I wanted to watch Game of Thrones, and I did that, and that was it.
But you
Plus
got
you
a bunch
can
of
do-
other crap with Game of Thrones that you didn't want, but you were willing to put up with it because of Game of Thrones.
What if they start having monthly subscriptions for individual shows?
Yes, per
Not
show.
even the whole. How about like The Office? That's like $8 a month.
They
Probably
had Apple
pay
TV
it.
subscriptions, or what was it, or rentals, and then that went away real fast.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be bad. That'd be bad. I was, you know what, Renee? I was really shocked that Apple didn't launch TV channels like before Game of Thrones season, because before the March event, there were some rumblings that Apple would only charge $10 a month for HBO. So I was thinking to myself, if they can get this out before Game of Thrones starts, they have a killer on their hands. But they
Yeah, and
don't.
HBO's like, God, we're not going to let you put this out before Game of Thrones.
Right.
We're going to lose a buck.
Man, that would have been awesome for Apple had they got that done, but they didn't get it done.
Yeah, those negotiations are apparently like just like as arduous as all of us believe them to be. You have like a bunch of really studio executives, like the pitch meeting guy, and like Eddie Q with his sneakers up on the desk, and just things do not go well.
Actually, isn't Vector Premium coming out for like $9.99 next month? Is that what I heard?
I'm gonna see how Vype Premium does first, and then.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about all that, but that's funny. So
yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like, content is like on the other side, we all create content, and it's hard. I mean, the value has been taken out of blog content's got almost no value anymore. Podcast content, depending on who you are, has got very little value. Video content, again, like there's just it lost ubiquity. Now that everybody can access it now, but it's not like there's only 3 shows like you used to have on cable TV, and people would pay a fortune to be the smooth taste of Larrabee, twice an hour on that one of those 3 channels. And when you have ubiquity, and now it's hitting apps, apps used to be like $600 Photoshop packages in a box in a store, and now people think $1 is a lot to pay for an app. It's hard to fight ubiquity.
Yeah, the market is definitely shifting in the past like 15 years. And it's funny you mentioned that, Renee, because a large part of that is because of Apple and their App Store.
Yeah. Yeah, and the web and news articles. I mean, we used to pay for your newspaper and unfold it and sit there and read it in your magazine, and the Saturday and Sunday edition, and the classifieds were like a license to print money, and all that went away. It's like every industry. They used to get us to buy CDs, like buy the CDs. They're expensive now, but they'll go down. They never went down. It was like $15 to get the one song you wanted, because you have to buy the entire album. And they just made a fortune on trucking those things around. And now it's like $1. And then it was like Napster. It's just the internet made everything immediately accessible, but almost without value.
Yeah, but then new stuff always comes along. Like if we get AR glasses or whatever rolling in like, however long it takes, there's new experiences to be had and paid for and accessed. There's always something else coming when everything else is played out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hey, is that Mr. Pankley on a tech on the line? Hello, Jason.
Hello.
How are you doing, man?
How is everybody doing?
We've been lying because you weren't here. Now we have to start straightening up.
I was listening before, so you've been
God,
caught.
we lied in front of you. It's terrible.
So, Jason, you see the title of the live stream, so let's get your thoughts on the departure of Jony Ive.
I mean, I got to be honest. I've always been a huge fan of Jony Ive. I mean, yes, the videos in the White Room calling everything magical was ridiculous. But if you look at what he's done, if you look at the things that he created, I remember working on Macs during the John Scully era that were terrible, and the other beige boxes that came before it. And then when Steve came back and the iMac came out, it was like, oh my God. So it's like suddenly the world turned color. and then iPod, iPhone, just everything that he was behind. I mean, Steve found him in design school, right?
He was stuck at Apple.
He was in the basement.
Yeah, he was in the basement working on stuff and just losing his will to carry on.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an incredible story, and what he's done is really, really unbelievable. He will go down in history as one of the most impactful industrial designers that has ever been, designing things. So I think he's been fantastic. Over the past couple of years, maybe few years, it seems like we haven't seen him as much there. And I just felt like kind of an energy that's not quite as present as it was in those earlier years. So maybe it's good for him to be out and having the opportunity to do his own thing while still working with Apple, while Apple gets to get some fresh new ideas or new blood or whatever in there. And they're going to have to pass the torch at some time. I mean, 30 years is a long time.
Yep.
The guy was going to retire at some point. So
Take your kids out by then.
yeah, I know. I know. So I think his legacy is just incredible.
Absolutely, man. Don't think there will be another Jony Ive, at least not in our lifetime.
Well, there won't be another Jony Ive. There won't be another Steve Jobs. And from the title of the live stream, is this the end of the Steve Jobs era? Well, Steve's been dead for like 8 years, right? So everything that they've done at this point is on them. So I don't know.
Yeah, but Steve's been gone for a while. But I mean, there's a lot of people who worked under Steve that are still at the company even to this day. So a lot of his ideology is still present in the company, no doubt.
Yeah. But I think I remember reading the Walter, is it Simonson? Isaacson. Yes, that's right. I remember reading that book and thinking like, God, this guy like has just that right amount of being an incredibly overbearing perfectionist asshole. and yet somehow being able to motivate people and engage their ability, their desire to do more than they think they can. I mean, another person would have been hated forever, but for some reason he had that kind of loyalty, and it's gonna wear off after time. If you don't have that driving the bus, then starts to slow down.
Do you guys ever hear the Dolores story?
Hmm.
So when Steve Jobs was away and they were working on a lot of stuff, and he came back and he went to a design meeting, and someone said, "What do you think, Steve?" And Steve LeMay said, "Well, I think," and then he stopped and everyone looked at Steve Jobs. And they all, they kind of looked at each other for a moment and then kept talking. And then someone else said, "What do you think, Steve?" And LeMay started to answer. And Steve Jobs just turned to him and goes, "This can't continue. From now on, your name is Dolores."
Yeah. Well, I mean, and stuff like that is the famous fonts blowout where the engineer was like, "Why? Who do we? I don't care about fonts. There's just fonts." And supposedly he got fired over not understanding why fonts and choices were important in an operating system interface. I mean, my favorite. I just love watching Ashton Kutcher play that scene.
Oh God, I have nightmares still. He was like The Walking Dead before zombie movies were popular with that walk.
Yeah, it's just. But
what
really
I liked
funny.
is that you could win. Like you could like he was Steve Jobs, but you could win those arguments. Like you could convince him to put iTunes on Windows. If you screwed it up, it was your fault. You could convince him to make an iPad Mini. If you screwed it up, it was your fault. You could convince him that Automator was an important piece of software and not to cancel it. And if you screwed up, it was your fault. You could people could argue with him, and he would let them win because he trusted that he hired smart people. And I think that's what a lot of tech companies are run by people who think they're Steve Jobs to the point where they don't listen to anybody else. And the key to being Steve Jobs was being super opinionated, but trusting the people you hire to also have good opinions.
Yeah, I think that's true. And especially, I think also in tech, you have this thing where it's the started in your garage mythos of, being the lone wolf, braving new territory. And then when you actually have your success and you have to give up some control, a lot of people can't do it. So Steve Jobs could definitely do that. I was thinking about this the other day because I've been having lots of arguments with people about headphone jacks. And those arguments will continue. But what other tech magnate can you think of whose stereo was featured in a magazine? He had this kick-ass stereo with no furniture in the room, nothing. It's just a kick-ass stereo with, I'm sure it cost thousands of dollars. And all he did was sit in there, no furniture, and listen to the music.
Listen to Dylan.
And he was, I mean, I honestly think that was the reason that the iPod worked. He understood what it was to be crazy about music and the experience of listening to music. I don't know if there's anybody at Apple in a position comparable to Steve Jobs' position that has that same passion. I don't think Tim Cook is like, got an audio cave that he goes into or anything. So I could be wrong.
Does, but he's probably just found out what to get.
Yeah, he's still looking on Pitchfork or something.
Pitchfork.
Is Pitchfork still a thing? I don't even know.
Yeah, Jason, to your point, like you said, I don't think there will ever be another like visionary like Steve Jobs. Man,
yeah,
he was unique. It's
not to say that Apple can't do all the things that they've done. I mean, like you said, I think the corporate culture can still exist, and the people, you can pass that thing down from top to bottom. But I think they've made some over the past several years, 2016 to 2019, they've made some really weird choices, and some really unfortunate choices, like the MacBook
To your
Pro.
previous point, there was Dieter Rams before Jonathan Ive, and there was, I'm going to blank on all their names, but the heads of Sony and Nintendo, and there's been some amazing product people. They weren't all the same product people. They weren't all the same designers. They were in different industries and different companies, but it seems like every generation we get at least one or two of them. They don't always have the same heights of success, but they do make products like the Walkman or like the Nintendo, that just change all of our lives. And it may not be at Apple again, but I think we will see people who sort of tower over industries again.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Apple's been a slow burn. Like really since the mid 80s, we've been watching Apple climb. And I think to the point where we're just used to it. We're just used to Apple being like one of the top most visionary companies in the world. And yeah, somebody else will come along, whether it's an old company or a new company with some kind of visionary look at things, and you're right, it will change.
Yeah, I think right now we have Elon Musk. I mean, probably the closest thing to Steve Jobs we have right now.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I don't know.
Well, he's like Steve Jobs in that episode of Star Trek where you're too close to the disintegrating star and he starts to take Sulu.
Yeah. yeah.
I mean, a different field.
Yeah. Elon Musk he's brilliant in a different way, where it's like he can somehow figure out how to do anything, whatever seems to catch his interest.
Yeah.
But yet it's a little too scattered to be focused.
He's not as
in a
disciplined.
Way. Yeah.
Well, he's more of a Wozniak than a Jobs, because he's primarily an engineer more than he is a businessman. And Jobs was very good at selling things and being very charismatic on stage. Elon Musk is like the opposite of that. He's got the engineering smarts, but when it comes to coming up on stage, he can hardly get two sentences together.
Yeah. Unless he smokes some pot on the podcast.
Oh, we tried to transcribe him. We've been doing transcripts of Tim Cook's conference calls for years, and we tried it when we started trying to do Elon Musk, and it was a nightmare. It was so hard to actually sit there and type as he was talking. We never did it again.
You could make a AI that sounds like him, but actually puts words together.
Well, it makes you appreciate how perfectly spoken like Steve Jobs and Tim Cook are. Like they say exactly what they mean. They don't hem, they don't haw, they don't make up words. There's like no weird breaks in the sentences. They sort of speak in paragraphs. Yeah.
So yeah. I actually heard a weird thing about Elon Musk though. Like somebody came up with the theory that everything that he's doing is preparing for humans to move to Mars. And I thought about
why?
it.
It's a virtual planet, and he believes we're all a simulation, but he still wants to evacuate it.
But
you don't want the game to end.
Well, shouldn't he be trying to figure out a way to get us out?
Yeah,
But
Mars
is there
isn't out?
Is there an out? It's like,
He's Neo.
yeah.
He's the Keanu Reeves
the
of the
code,
real
like-
world.
pretend you're Warren Ellis.
But it's crazy because if you think about everything that he has going on, the Boring Company, the Tesla, the SpaceX, I mean, if you put it all together, it actually makes sense. And crazy.
You travel to Mars and you dig holes for electric cars to go through. It's like a perfect pattern.
I don't know why people want to go to Mars. I don't get it.
Whatever happened to that Hyperloop stuff? Is it still happening?
I don't know.
Surely, slowly, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, Elon Musk is, if we look to history, maybe Elon Musk is a little more Nikola Tesla than Thomas Edison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a little bit of a like, he's just a little bit of very much a genius, but Edison, like Steve Jobs, Edison knew how to package and make
He's the
money.
guy that Elvis used to watch playing before he made his albums.
So Jason, I got an interesting question for you because I know how very opinionated you've been about Apple lately.
Yes.
So what is your what would you say is your favorite Apple product designed by Jony Ive or inspired by Jony Ive?
Good question. I would have to go with the iPod, honestly. And all the iterations of the iPod from that original iPod. It's just, there's just something about the simplicity of that device that was so, but yet it was really so profound in how it affected our lives. That, yeah, and I have really mixed feelings about digital music altogether. On one hand, it's 1,000, like Steve Jobs would say, 1,000 songs in your pocket. But from an artist standpoint, that usually doesn't mean that usually means you're not making any money. And from a consumer standpoint, it's more difficult to have a very good experience.
Or a relationship with that much music.
Yeah, it's like I found that I love listening to albums, but it's incredibly hard to listen to albums on a streaming service or in just a big list of.
But also, because we're probably of somewhat similar ages. Like, you just had the album and you would play that over, and it's not like you had 1,000 albums. Like, you would play that over and over again, and you got to know intimately every part of it.
Right.
And now I barely hear the same song once a year.
Yeah, it's true. I forget what album it was that I listened to recently, but I switched over to Tidal, so I was kind of trying to go through and pick up stuff that was in my collection before, just because Tidal I find is really hard to build a library because of the way that they serve the stuff that they serve to you. It's not geared toward 47-year-old white guys, I guess, which is fine, which is totally cool. It's more the younger crowd.
Everything else is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more the younger crowd. It's focused in a different way. But I listened to a record that I hadn't probably heard in 20 years, and I still knew every last nuance of that record. And it was just, you're right. I don't think you have that experience anymore. But the iPod was just beautiful in its simplicity to me. So, and that I think is ultimately that's the calling card of Jony Ive.
It's funny that you say that because I'm pretty sure the iPod was my first Apple device.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was for a lot of people. It was the gateway drug before the iPhone.
Yep. Great. It's just so interesting because it seems like the iPod just came out yesterday, but it's been almost 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it came out yesterday. It doesn't feel like it to me.
Drew, were you like 2 or 3 years old when it first came out?
I don't think I was born when the iPod came out. I don't know.
Yeah. That's something that's really interesting to me. Just I've been thinking about that as thinking about doing different things on the channel, recognizing that the majority of my audience is 24 to 35.
Yep.
And so I'm more than 10 years older than the majority of my audience, which means I've had a lot more experiences with stuff that they only know about. And finding ways to like communicate about that stuff and get people to get excited about and maybe be interested in, if not, readopting some of the old thoughts of like you say, how you think about video games, how you think about music, how you think about lots of stuff.
Did you have that experience watching Captain Marvel in the movie theater when the Windows 95 scenes come up and like half the movie theater got it, and now they're at the movie theater's like, what the hell is that? What's going on right now?
Yeah,
is that a computer?
I wasn't paying strict enough attention to recognize that it was not the right Windows. But I read about it later and I was like, oh yeah.
Well, they also called it Shield in '95, so that ruined it for me.
Yeah.
They weren't paying too much attention to continuity in the MCU, let alone Windows history.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, man. 1995. Jeez.
No doubt. Hey, Chris.
Yo.
So we got the report earlier this year that there may be a new set of AirPods later this year, possibly. But what I want to know is, are we ever going to get the over-the-ear Pro Pods or whatever the hell they're going to call them?
I don't know. I think it'd be cool if they did. I like my AirPods are some of the most used things ever. And if they ever come out with noise canceling AirPods, I don't know that I would need like the over the ear. I mean, yeah, it'd be great for certain things, but noise canceling AirPods, I would be, I don't know, a little bit more excited about, I think, right now.
I mean, but man, that'd be an incredible feat of engineering, though, given how small the AirPods are, because they don't have any ceiling type of design with them right now.
Yeah, I'm not an engineer. I don't even know if it's possible, but that would be like amazing to me.
Renee, you know anything about Pro Pods? Are we getting Pro Pods, Renee?
I heard that they're working on them. I don't know what their product release plans are, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that all stuff always sounds like iPhone event stuff to me. Like, I think if Apple had their druthers, the current AirPods would have come out last September, and then we get the next generation of stuff this September. But since they didn't, we'll see what happens this September. But the over-the-ear ones, it just seems like a smart move because they are getting into wearables. They're basically ear computers. I mean, they managed to get computers on our wrists. Now they're putting them in our ears. Soon they'll have them on our eyes too. It feels like where Apple needs to be.
But now you're getting into like, they have Beats. So does it make sense to have their own Apple branded? You know what I mean?
But Beats is like having FileMaker. Like, how often do you really pay attention to FileMaker news? It's like Beats gets to be like, Apple wants to make one of something, but they realize that there's some fashion stuff, and like, okay, we'll let Beats do the red version with the string. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they were really smart in buying Beats, and I honestly don't think initially they bought Beats in order to get into the headphone business. I think they bought Beats because they knew they wanted to get into the music streaming business, and Beats Music was a really good streaming service because it was a streaming service called Mog before that, and Mog was my favorite streaming service. I still love Apple Music for discovery, but unfortunately I'm doing this title thing. Now I'm paying twice as much for probably like perceived betterness.
Yeah, why what is your issue with Apple Music? Is it just not working well enough for you, or what?
Well,
or do you even use Apple Music? Maybe you use Spotify, I don't know.
No, I tried Spotify probably half a dozen times and I just could never, because I think Spotify was predicated on playlists and individual songs, and I just don't, my brain doesn't register that when I think about music. So I just had a really hard time with Spotify. I want to have the better audio quality. That much I know. And then we were talking about this on the Painfully Honest Tech podcast on Tuesday. This guy, Steve Freeman, who's a producer and songwriter, like he's somewhat a big deal. He was on there and he was talking about how even Apple puts things through compressors and does some things before the music actually comes out of Apple Music and then you can get it on your phone or on your device and put more compression on it and EQ and those kinds of things. So I found this. There was this video that I saw once. It wasn't that long ago. The guy who did it was a producer of, I think, like electronic music, but he wanted to find out which streaming service had the best overall sound or recreated as much of the music as possible, because it's all compressed format.
Right.
And he found that Tidal, of course, was the best because that's what they do. Apple was like third or fourth, I think, among it was Tidal, Apple Music, Spotify,
Android,
YouTube Music, and I forget exactly how he did it, but he had this way of looking at the files and then sort of reversing the polarity. It wasn't that, but just sort of reversing what was there to see what was not there in the song, like what had been compressed out. And YouTube Music, it looked like there was no music in the song at all. So it's just like it's like a reverse waveform.
So how does Tidal compare? Because I've never used it to like, whereas Apple Watch or Apple Music is gonna work on my watch, CarPlay, Apple TV. It's like everywhere, and it's good. Like, how does Tidal work with that?
Well, there is a Tidal Apple TV app, which I think is great. I haven't tried it on the watch, and I still do Bluetooth just straight to the. I don't have a car that will do Apple CarPlay or Android Auto or any of that stuff, so I can't answer that one. But yeah, Tidal does have the ability to have that app on there, and the interface is pretty nice. I mean, I love Apple TV because the interface is so sexy. I don't want it to be, because I want to be over the set-top box, but it's impossible. It's impossible. Somebody from an agency just got in touch with me and was like, do you want a lifetime membership to Plex Premium, which I think gives you like Tidal as well, and have to make a video about it and all that kind of stuff.
Was it CC'd to every YouTuber ever?
I can't remember. I sent it over to my guy, and we're gonna have a meeting on Monday, I think. But Plex is something that I've always been interested, like having a media server in my house, and then but I always start doing those things like smart home. I always start putting my smart home together, and then I get lazy and everything is only halfway hooked up. Like I've got Alexa can turn on my studio lights, but not very much more than that. So
she's not your slave, Jason.
Well, reminds me of that Black Mirror episode where they put the virtual copy of the actual person inside of the house, the smart home stuff, so that the virtual copy would then like run everything in the house and run everything for her real counterpart. But she was still conscious. She was still like, she still thought she was herself inside of the machine. I love Black Mirror.
So Jason, Chris, Renee, who are we going to get to replace that magical Jony Ive voice?
I have a job interview tomorrow.
Can you say aluminium?
No.
Well, it's all about how you say magical. If you can get that little bit of extra emphasis in the magical, then I think you're good.
I don't know. Maybe Jason is the singer. Maybe we should submit him.
I already got the white background right here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I don't know.
The silly, I don't know, silly, but the wonderful, precious thing is that is exactly how he talks. Like even when he's talking to other people at Apple, he sound, and that's the thing with all the Apple executives. And if you've worked in the industry for a while, you know that a lot of people have stage personalities, and a lot of them put on acts in different shows and things. But whenever you hear Apple people even talking to each other, that's how Tim sounds, and that's how Jony sounds, and that's how Greg sounds. They talk off stage exactly the way they talk on stage. And Jony is just like, yeah, it's really important that we understand the user interface, but until we actually get their hands on it, we don't know what it really means to them. And that's not him talking on stage. That's him like talking to Craig. And it's amazing.
Yeah, that's. I think Jony Ive probably has one of those voices where people stop listening to him, like what he's actually saying, and just listen to him talk. One of those kinds of voices. It's very soothing. It's kind of like
Renee, when Tim Cook walked up to you, Renee, he's like, "Good morning." Is that how you like, Renee? Really?
No, one of my favorite things though is I was with Jim Dalrymple at the launch for the Apple Watch in Palo Alto, and we didn't see that. We were standing there, and Tim goes, "So what are your favorite bands?" And Jim and I turn around, and we start stumbling for an answer. And he just wanted to know what we liked about the bands, what we didn't like about the bands. And Jim probably said there wasn't enough beer in them, knowing him. I mean, it's just they're very down to earth in products. And one of my favorite Tim Cook memories is just I was standing off to the side of the rooms because I like to go through them very carefully. And I just see Tim Cook go by with one of the bands that had performed. And he said, "Have you seen the new iPad Pro yet?" Because it was the event when they announced it. And I forget who the band was then. They said no. So one of the marketing people just gave him the iPad Pro, and he started doing like a full-on product demo, like as if one of the Apple marketing people were doing like, you can do this, you can move your windows, you can, and it was like, man, he like, because some CEOs have no idea what the company actually make, and a lot of them have no idea how the products actually work. And he was given a full-on Marcoms level tour of that thing to that band, and it was fun to watch.
That is cool. That is cool.
Yeah, that is cool that he is well aware of what's going on with his product and he knows how to use them like that. That's pretty cool. Man. Woo! So, Chris, how about this iPhone 11 coming, man? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously wait to see what it's like, but I mean, I'm going to get it. It comes back to this thing, like, whatever I don't have is what I'm going to like trade. So I always go like little, big, like I switch off because I get the littler version. I want the bigger, want the littler. So I got the 10s Max is like my main personal phone right now. So I don't know, maybe go down to like the smaller version this time, see. But yeah, I'm excited for it, of course.
But if you go to the smaller version this time, you might be going for like 5.4 inches. That's that's small.
But that's a piece of content right there. They'll give me content for a whole year.
Yeah, I know.
Living with it.
I hear you.
No, Jason, that's next year. That's not this year.
Oh, that's right. That's 2020. That's 2020.
Right.
This year we get the same thing with like some sort of growth on the back of the phone.
Hey, Viper, here's what I really want, dude. I want this feature so badly. And MKBHD tweeted about this too. I know other people want it. I want the good camera to be on the front of the phone so I can shoot video of myself and see myself and get the good quality. Because like otherwise you don't really know exactly where you're aiming and framing. You know what I mean?
Right.
You want it to flip around like that Asus?
Right.
I don't know.
Selfie to Elsie and back.
or the Apple Watch strap that flips up so I can like selfie like this.
You know, the better question is, why hasn't the company put the same quality camera on the front and the back? Why is the front camera always inferior to the back camera?
Because no one wants a bump on the front of their phone.
But cameras don't always have bumps though.
They do when you want to, like, if you want a really good camera, it's going to be, the lens needs a certain amount of, again, Z-index. So it's going to come out further than the phone. Same way it doesn't. If you want a camera as good as the back, it's going to look like the back. And then, I don't mind that. Put bumps everywhere.
You could always make
they
the phone
build in the periscope, right? Like the Huawei.
Yeah. Like I would take a bump on the MacBook if we got rid of these crappy cameras that keep sticking in MacBooks.
At this point, I think with the MacBooks, they're just like, you know what? This is our own personal inside joke that we are screwing these people with these 720p cameras forever. And it's just, I think that it's like an inside Apple joke. and they're just laughing at us.
I'll just take the bump. Just give me the bump. I'll be fine.
Yeah. That's one thing I really loved about the iMac Pro is it had that 1080p webcam,
Yeah.
and it was actually not terrible. So
I mean, stick the iPad Pro camera in the iMac Pro already. I mean, give me a 4K camera on my iMac Pro.
yeah, that would be good. I would love to have a decent camera on the front of my phone, though. That's a good point.
Definitely.
Because like Chris said, that would make video recording a lot easier and better.
Dude, I'm almost at the point, though, seriously, the phone for me, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Beast Grip. They make insane accessories to turn your phone, like, into a DSLR-style camera. Right. Or, you know, like, it could be such a great tool with just that one little tweak for me. I would use it for everything. Everyone's, like, upgrading to RED cameras and stuff. Like, I like the portability of cameras, personally, for the kind of stuff that I do. So to be able to, that one change would be huge for me.
And portrait mode video, so you don't give up your tasty bokeh just to have.
That's right.
Be your camera.
Yeah, maybe that can be the ever thought about but never reality iPhone Pro. See, I want the iPhone Pro where they give us they don't make it as thin. They give us back the headphone jack. They make the front facing camera better.
$1,000 stand.
Yeah, and it minimum 512 gigabytes of storage. You know?
I was joking about, like, if Apple really wanted to hurt some people, they would get up on stage and they say, "Look, we're finally getting the Lightning. We're not adding USB-C. We're just getting rid of the port, but you can have your headphone jack back."
Oh, that would
charge the iPod Shuffle. Fine, go home.
Yeah. Jason is on a never-ending war trying to bring back the headphone jack. He is not having it.
Well, the thing is, like, it's not obsolete. It's like we're talking about, if you're using your phone for content creation and you want to use an external microphone, yes, they make Lightning versions of stuff like that now, but you wouldn't have to buy a specific version that cost you like $20 more, because you could plug it into your headphone jack. And I forget what the percentage was, but the vast majority of people still listen to music with the buds that come in the box. So again, it's that sort of like they created a market for themselves to slot the AirPods into, and that kind of thing. Is wireless the future? Yeah, obviously it is. But I'm still really salty about that. Like, this technology goes back 100 years, and we don't want to use 100-year-old technology. We're going to have the courage to take it away. It's like,
Klondike 475. One moment while I connect you, sir.
it's like, no, dude, that wasn't the same thing. You know?
I think Chris and I would just be happy if the Lightning port or the USB-C just dispensed nitro coffee. Like, you just you press the side button and coffee pours out of it.
Yes.
The closest you're going to get is that Starbucks app.
That doesn't dispense the coffee.
I know. But you could just sit in your car and scan the phone. I don't do that.
Yeah.
For no good reason.
They deliver. You just press the button and the coffee shows up in your door about half an hour later.
Yeah, that would be good. Because these days I don't have to leave the house as much as I used to.
Yeah, Canada's Starbucks Second Cup, they have not Uber. I think they have Uber Eats and another one, so you can just. But I feel real dumb ordering like a cup of coffee off those services. Like, a poor guy's got to drive there, pick it up, and drive a coffee over to your house because you can't walk out the door and get a coffee.
It's like, this fucking person.
I know, right?
Like, I'm his now. That's the new secretary. It's just like, hey, can you get me a cup of coffee? You know, the new like studio intern or whatever is the Uber Eats guy.
That's funny. I'm my own secretary, though, because I enjoy that break during the day to like pop out and grab a coffee somewhere. Like, I like the break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Seeing the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It burns. It burns.
It does too. Like, oh my God. I have like blackout curtains all the way.
Well, look how dark it is in there.
I know. This is like I'm in a hole with like only this pancake light at 20% like shining on me.
Are you actually like an old military surplus tank, and there's like a portal like on top of you, like in Lost, where like you push that open and you climb up the ladder to get out?
I wish that I was. Unfortunately, it's a halfway converted garage.
Well, it's probably more RF friendly than a tank or a
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Jason likes working in the dark. That's all it is.
I do.
It's dark mode.
Right.
And I'm about dark mode for everything.
Dark mode for mobile only and CarPlay.
For me, like, I like to read in the dark. Like, so I read when I go to sleep, and before the Kindle app put black on choice, my poor eyes would just burn, like, ow. So I don't know. I
stopped reading a long time ago. It's audiobooks only for me.
Oh,
I do that too. I do that too.
You're not going to get your eyes to atrophy if you keep reading, Jason.
I just got new glasses.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, but my prescription hadn't changed. I felt for sure that I was more blind than I was, but no.
So Chris, that vlog that you did it from the Apple campus, was that your first Apple event, or?
No, not my first Apple event. In fact, I wasn't. Renee knows I wasn't in the event, but I went. I was like right on the fence, like, shooting like right there, because I wasn't actually invited inside this year. I have been before, but not this year. So yeah, while I was out there, I figured I got some requests like, go check out the campus. Let us know what it's like, because a bunch of people can't get there. They're in Australia or Japan, or you know what I mean. So.
Or they don't get invited like me.
Or yeah, we'll see. But dude, you gotta show up anyways. Just go. That's gonna be the new thing. Like all the YouTubers that don't get in, just go anyways. It's worth it. It's fun. You hang out. You still see it.
That's what developers do. They just like so many of them go anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. A friend of mine asked me last week. He's like, if you get a developer's license, do you like get on the long list for an invite to WWDC? And I don't know, but if you pay the $99, I guess you're a developer.
Yeah, but then the ticket costs like $1.50. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting that we're on the topic of developers and things like that. I think all of us are using the new betas now. So Renee, I'll start with you. What have been your most enjoyable beta so far out of the ones you've used?
You mean like beta, like iOS 12 beta, iOS 13 beta, that kind of stuff? Or
I mean like between iOS 13, iPadOS 13, tvOS 13, which one are you?
I mean, I've used the iOS 13 the most just because I use my phone the most, but I think I've had the most fun with iPadOS.
Yeah.
I mean, Catalina is awesome, but it's a lot of things that I'm going to enjoy over the months, where the iPad is giving me all the fresh eye candy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, iPadOS is awesome. Utterly amazing.
That's same for me. Like iPadOS is insane. But I was working on my iOS 13 content today, actually, like outlining that. And it's not a revolutionary update, but there's a lot of stuff that affects my everyday life that is going to be really awesome. Like getting rid of robocalls, for instance. It's not like a huge thing, but it matters though. I'm sick of those, There's some really cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think either so I'm using an LG V50 right now, and I think there's a feature that I can get either through the carrier or through the phone that will purportedly take away those calls.
Now, do they make you pay for it? Because that's one thing I don't want to do.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it too much, and I imagine they probably do if it's through the carrier, but I don't know if this happens to you guys, but over the past 6 months, somehow the folks who are making these robocalls, they have been able to spoof numbers so that a call will be coming from my area code and looks like it's a local call, but it's a recorded, like, do you have enough life insurance thing?
Yep.
And I'm how the fuck are they doing that?
They're getting advanced, man. They're getting advanced.
That can't be legal.
Come on, Jason. We got AI out there that can sound like a human being. Come on, Jason.
Yeah, we also have AI that can take clothes off of women in pictures.
And it can barely turn on lights when you ask it explicitly to do so. I mean, the very quality of AI is amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, dude. While we're talking about the betas, let me just ask really quick, and this is sort of directed at Renee because I feel like he may know better. No offense, because I don't know either. But have you seen that you can replace the default camera app using the new shortcuts, whatever feature, and like mail and stuff too? You know what I mean? Is that going to stick around? Are they going to allow that, or is that going?
Well, it's like I saw the people who make Halide and the people who make like Obscura playing around with it, and Sebastian from Halide really likes it. But I want to call him Ben Rice because that's his screen name, but people's Twitter names confuse me now. But he was saying it's just not reliable enough yet, so it'll be interesting to see if it gets better or it disappears.
But do you think that it's going to get like? Are they going to leave it? Is it permanent, or is Apple going to be like, no, that was unintended?
Yeah, I mean, I think they still don't want to mess around with default apps because they do a lot of stuff under the hood to make, like for example, the new login with Apple, it does a bunch of stuff to make anonymous forwarders that really would make no sense if you'd replaced your Apple Mail app with Gmail, because I don't know if it would do the traversal the same way. So there's a bunch of dependencies there. So they might think that it breaks those, but I'm hopeful one day we get them default apps because it would make my life a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my guilty pleasures about iOS though, is using the default apps. Like I find the Gmail mobile app really annoying.
It's awful.
Yeah, and I, not that the Apple Mail app is the greatest thing in the world, but it works to the point where I can actually like put multiple emails in there and nothing gets confused, and I don't have to do more than one little click here and there to get from one thing to the next. It's very basic, but it works.
I always come back to the default apps eventually. Is anybody using Superhuman right now?
No.
What is that?
No? I had a consultation. They make you, have you guys heard of Superhuman? It's like insane. It's venture backed. Everyone loves it. It's like this secret club if you have like Superhuman. It's really hard to get. Somebody gave me an invite and I wanted to get in there. You have to set up like a consultation and it's $30 a month. I was going to try it out. I'm like, see, you have to have like an hour-long consultation with the CEO or something just to get in.
I don't know what that is.
It's a mail service, right? It's like an email service.
Yeah, everyone swears it's like amazing.
Yeah.
Life-changing.
Every one of those services has either had immense privacy issues or has been sold off to a company with immense privacy issues pretty speedily.
Yeah, well, you can tell when somebody's using it because it like tells everything about you. So someone will be like, "Oh yeah, how's Denver?" You know, like it's like, "What? Never even met you," but they know everything about you because they're using Superhuman.
You should really have that looked at. I mean, those cysts might go away, but really,
yeah.
It's like, I'm looking at your most recent colonoscopy here, and I see some polyps.
Really, that's not normal.
There's some really interesting shaped polyps in there. Yeah, I'm doing a project with Massdrop, and I guess they're part of Superhuman because their emails are tagged with that now. So,
interesting. So, Chris, I've talked to Renee about this. I've talked to Jason about this, but I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this. So, Chris, I'm curious. Do you think that the Apple App Store is a monopoly?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but I don't really want to see it broken up, if that makes sense. I don't think it's going to be as good for me. I don't know though. I could be wrong, but it feels like I don't want it broken up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But the technical answer, I don't know. What did Renee say? What did everybody else say?
I don't know. You want to go first?
Remember.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
I don't have I have a lot of strong opinions loosely held, and they tend to evolve a lot over time, which I know some people hate, but I think humans do evolve as you learn more, and if you're not learning, you're not trying.
Wait, people don't like it when you change your opinion?
No, because then you said this 13 years ago. You said I found a tweet where you said this 13 years ago, and now you're saying something different.
Oh my God. I like, if I die from anything other than, like health reasons, it's gonna be because people are like, you said this, and my head is gonna explode.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I have a lot of really mixed feelings. Like, I think that what Apple's doing, and like, just to be totally clear, you can have, we're surrounded by legal monopolies, we're surrounded by beneficial monopolies, and the only price they pay is that they're subject to certain kinds of regulation. And I think that's absolutely fine. I don't think the App Store is anywhere nearly as bad as most cable carrier or other legal monopolies we have today, but we get huge benefits from it, and people can sell on Android. I think some of the individual policies within the App Store are problematic, not just in terms of end users, but also in terms of Apple and oversight from the EU and the US government regulatory agencies. And, Apple could probably play a better game there in not doing some things as overtly as they do. But I think at the end of the day, they provide a vast service, and I like to have alternatives. I don't want 2 Google Play stores. And I think the ultimate arbiter here is this: if there was something so compelling about having a much more open store, we would see the results in Google Play, because almost any time developers or users complain about something in the App Store, Google's already doing it differently. And if that allowed, for example, a category of apps that were simply impossible on the App Store and they were making a fortune, Apple would change their policies tomorrow. There is no more effective way of getting Apple to change than showing them that you can make money without them. So that has not happened. Like all the most transformative apps, from Instagram to Uber, even the games, they've all appeared just fine, if not first, on the App Store. And the prices on the App Store, despite people complaining about them, are ridiculously low. Like, we've devalued software to the point where, they'll be paying us to download it soon if they aren't already. So I think a lot of it is just manufactured, but I do think there are things that Apple has to address. Most importantly, you can't have 2 middlemen anymore. There's just not enough money. Apple packages up apps to resell them to us, and Spotify packages up music to resell it to us. And Apple, there's no money for Apple to package up an app that's packaging up things. There just isn't enough money for both of them, and that's sort of something they're going to have to figure out.
Well, it's kind of funny because I'm looking at the website that Apple set up for all this that say like, no, we're not. And you look at the categories, it's like, example, Amazon Alexa. Well, yeah, technically that's available, but it's not baked into the system on the same level as like Siri. You know what I mean? There are some areas where like you don't actually have as much choice, but I wouldn't want Alexa anyways, to be clear. But
it's nice to not have a system where Google can be integrated at the root. I find that of value. Other people don't, and that's fine. They can get an Android device, but I want my ability to choose.
Yeah, right. Well. Ultimately, you do have the option, right? Get a different phone, but
go ahead, Jason.
The thing to me is like, so you mentioned, Renee, like things like cable companies or mobile phone companies, we've got fewer and fewer mobile phone companies, but we used to only have one, and that got broken up because it was a monopoly and they could control the price of everything. And I don't see the App Store being like that.
No, yeah, right.
So it's people are opting into being a part of the quote unquote Apple ecosystem, right? Yep. And part of the reason why some people do that is because they have a better experience, or an experience that they enjoy more on the App Store with the apps that Apple devices have. And I just don't. The one thing I don't like is, so when I first signed up for Spotify, I signed up through my App Store, and it was $25 a month instead of $20. And I realized what I had done only after I paid, and went and signed up on Tidal's website and saved $5, right? But I don't like that aspect of it, and you can't. If you go through the App Store, you can't really get rid of that premium for some things. However, you can do what I did, which is just go outside to the website and then just use their app. I don't think people who say the App Store is a monopoly have a full understanding of what monopoly really means. Apple doesn't control all of the means of production and all of the products of one kind in our economy. They don't control all the apps.
And Apple doesn't control the pricing either.
Right.
But there are some annoying things though, like Audible. It's so annoying to have to go get like something on the website, shop for a book there, and then come back into the app. Like, I hate that. That's not a good experience.
Same thing. I mean, same thing with Kindle. It's very annoying. Like, I often forget when I've switched from an Android device to an iOS device, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to look for another book. And then I'm just like, here, how to buy this book. I'm like, what? And then I remember I'm on an iPhone, you know? So that is really annoying, but that's like Apple and Amazon being dicks to each other, basically.
Yeah, well, I think Apple, I mean, originally when the system was set up, the rule was free apps had to be free. Like if you wanted to charge even in-app purchases, you had to be a paid app. And then they changed that rule and they said that you could be a free app with in-app purchases. But I think Apple's fear back then was that absolutely everybody would immediately switch to a web-based payment, because in the earliest days of the App Store, developers couldn't believe 30 bucks, 30% was so cheap. Retail was 55%, and most fulfillment companies were way more than that. And the online web stores for like Palm and BlackBerry, forget about it. It was an incredibly good deal, but once the infrastructure was in place, people started to grumble. And if they could have the infrastructure for free, because free apps got all the fulfillment, the transactions, they got everything for free, and get all the payments, that was super attractive. So the best of both worlds would be download our app from the App Store and then pay us over the web. So Apple broke that connection immediately, because otherwise they just saw every bit of income leaving. They would be doing all the work and getting none of the benefits, including the benefit of just being a trusted platform with a huge storefront in front of it. And now 8 years later, none of those things have changed, even if the reality has.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think there are things like you were saying, Chris. I think there are things that could be changed. I think there are things that don't work the way that they should, that probably could work that way now. But overall, I mean, having used both services pretty regularly, like the App Store and the quality of the apps that you get from the App Store is generally so much better than anything that you get from the Google Play Store.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah. So that's ultimately what I get frustrated with Android phones, because the overall experience might be good, but individual experiences within the overall experience are kind of janky. And I get frustrated, and then I go back to an iPhone, and then people yell at me, and lather, rinse, repeat.
So for this particular argument, I have always maintained that the Apple App Store is not a monopoly. It's not a monopoly because, as Renee said earlier, the Google Play Store is this. If you don't like what Apple's doing with their App Store, you can always go to Google Play. Hell, Samsung has their own App Store now. I mean, you have options. Apple isn't the only game in town.
The one thing that you can't do, though, is take an iPhone and go to one of the other stores.
Correct.
And so maybe that's sort of one of the directions that people are going, is that, well, if you have an iPhone, all you can do is that. You can go to the App Store, but you can't use Amazon's apps or Google Play or any of that other stuff.
I mean, I can't run Xbox games on my Nintendo, and I can't watch Charter on my Comcast box. And we have just so many examples of this.
Yeah.
I can't get the United Airlines meal on the Air Canada flight.
Would you want it?
No.
But my argument to that, Jason, is how are you going to tell Apple how to run their closed platform? It's one thing if you're arguing about this on Android, because Android is open source, but Apple is a closed platform. You know what you sign up for when you choose to develop for iOS.
Can't even bring a popcorn into a movie theater. I got to buy theirs. It's the worst.
This is exactly what I feel like telling people who comment on my videos. They say like, why didn't you do this? Or why is it so bad? I'm like, you don't have to watch.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. People in the comments get mad when I get a little salty, like they can't believe that I actually responded and called them a dick or something. Yeah, which I try not to do. But sometimes it gets a little overwhelming, and I just, I snap.
Sometimes you got to clap back, man. Sometimes you got to clap back, Jason. You can't let these people roam free.
I know. It's hard though, man. It's hard to be, a player in this game.
Yeah, my other thing about this argument, my other thing about this is that where was this uproar like 5-6 years ago when all these companies were making buku money on the App Store and not saying a word, and now all of a sudden this is a problem? Like, then nothing changed. It's been this way for what? However long the App Store's been in existence. So why is the problem all of a sudden now?
Yeah,
because money.
Yeah, the answer is always because money.
If it's not because science, it's because money.
Yeah.
That's a good explainer. It's always because money.
I think even science can bend to the will of money.
And patent system.
Yeah.
Renee, you did an hour-long video covering Catalina. Why, whoa, where did that come from? An hour long?
I mean, I did one on iOS 12 last year that was like 40 minutes. And I like to explain, like, I'm never interested in what Apple is doing. I'm interested in how they're doing it. And that stuff is just endlessly fascinating to me. It's like Sidecar is great, but how is the video being transported? And Catalyst is terrific, but how are those frameworks being done? Like, all that stuff is endlessly fascinating to me. So I thought I'd take a chance and just see if I explained if anybody else would enjoy it at all. And in my defense, there is like sort of a legacy of real long ass reviews on macOS and iOS, and I'm partly guilty for doing that to begin with. But I just wanted to try it. Like, I like doing different things, and I wanted to try it.
My question
I have met Renee in person, and I assure you, he's not a machine. But I don't know how he produces all this content.
Yeah, I know.
It's amazing.
I have no life, Chris. Thank you for pointing that out so painfully.
Do you sleep?
Painfully honest.
Yeah, exactly. Do you sleep, or do you have an editor?
I have no kids. Is the thing, and it's amazing. Like, and I would love to have kids one day, but it's an amazing. Well, it's both a sad and an amazing thing when I don't have any. I'm going to back up for a second. A friend of mine was training real hard for mixed martial arts. And the coach said, and I'm sure the other coaches have said this before, like, he said, the most important thing is not to have any dependencies. Guys, like, what do you mean? He goes, if you're drinking, and if you have a bunch of girlfriends, if you have a family, all those things are going to reduce the amount of training you can do. And the only thing is the more you train, the luckier you're going to be, the better you're going to be. So the fewer things that are taking you away from training, the more training you're going to get done. And I'm both very, very sad and very, very lucky to have almost zero dependencies at the moment. So I can spend a weekend like editing a video. My family got real salty though, because it was Quebec Day, which is like our nationalist provincial holiday. Right. And I missed the barbecue because I was editing the video, and that did not end well for me.
Yeah. I was editing a video earlier. My wife got a promotion today. So
congratulations.
Yeah. Which makes it a little bit easier for me to have quit my job. Yay. But I stopped working on the video to go to dinner. And I told myself, like, I'm not going to allow myself to just sit there and think about what I have to do to the video when I get home. Which wasn't fun. And then I got home and I was like, I had all these plans. I was going to do bed music. I was going to do, all these little B-roll things and stuff. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to export it and get on this live stream.
Yeah.
So now it's sitting on YouTube waiting for me to, do the whole dance of metadata.
Mine wouldn't go, like, the last two videos just wouldn't go to HD. They were stuck at 320, 360p, whatever it is, until I put them live. And I'm like, okay, people are going to make fun of me because I'm putting it live. And then after I put it live, they were instantly HD. And I don't understand anymore.
Yeah.
That happens sometimes. I don't know why. It's weird.
Yeah. Are you doing 1080p or 4K?
4K 24 frames per second. I'm not like Michael Fisher 60 frames per second craziness.
That's right, Renee. That's what I do. 4K 24. Yep.
Yeah. I
usually do, but you know what? Like, it saved me so much time when I'm on a trip or something to shoot 1080 and upscale it to 4K. And like, I did that recently. Someone was like, "Wow, I love this 4K content. It's so clear." It's like, most people don't even know, but yeah, that can really save you some time.
Who was saying that? Someone was saying they shoot 4K and downscale to 1080 because the 4K compression is way better than 1080.
Linus, he made a video about that. I don't know, like
3 or 4
years ago.
I've heard Marquez say that too. But Peter McKinnon just put out a video earlier this week about, and he hasn't done these little tutorial videos in quite a while. And that's one of the things I really liked from him. But this was about, in Premiere, how to go from 16:9 to 2:1, and then how to set up the sequence to then render out in, like, going from 1080 to 4K. And so that's what I did with this video. It's going to be my first 2:1 video.
Nice.
So So yeah,
That works. I'm 2-1. Renee, you're 2-1, right? Are you doing 2-1 Viper?
Not there yet, no.
Oh, okay. You use Final Cut or Premiere? It's so easy in Final Cut.
Yeah, I use Final Cut. I remember Renee did a video with Jonathan Morrison covering this like not too long ago.
Yeah.
I gotta look into that.
I'm using Premiere on the Mac right now.
Ooh.
And I've been afraid to do that for quite a while. But I watched a Matthew Moniz video where he compared PC laptops to Mac with Metal in Premiere Pro, and it was fast. I mean, my video was 15.5 minutes long, and it rendered out. I mean, I was on here doing this and doing other things with the computer, but it rendered out in less than 15 minutes.
The Pro Workflows team has Premiere editors, and they have been charged with complaining to both Apple and Adobe relentlessly for anything that causes performance or throughput bottlenecks. And just them alone have pushed that stuff so much better over the last year and a half.
Yeah, yeah. I like Premiere better in a lot of ways. There are some things that at least I know how to do better in Premiere than I do in Final Cut. But I never really learned how to use Final Cut. It's easy enough to start and then just sort of figure out things as you go. But I've worked in the Adobe suite in different ways, like Quark Express, all those things back 20 something years. So
back when it was still Macromedia, kids.
Yes, I know. and so I sort of know the mindset of how these apps work, so I can do stuff, and so I kind of want to go back to Premiere, but I don't know. Final Cut's like it's like they're cutting your food for you.
So Renee, let's talk about this real quick. Who is more to blame for the Premiere hiccup on Mac OS? Is it Apple more to blame or Adobe more to blame? What's going on there?
I mean, there's probably enough blame to go around, but I think like Adobe for a while was just not optimizing their stuff. They were being cross-platform. It's easy to just build and dump. And then Apple put battery shaming, and they had to say, you don't want Photoshop to always be people. Why is my battery running? Oh, damn it, it's Photoshop again. That's the kind of negative peer pressure that Adobe doesn't want, and Apple really wants them to feel. And now I think it's also, they weren't optimizing for Apple's GPU path lane. And now I think a lot because of the Pro Workflows team, they're getting a lot of those things done. And that's just giving them such tremendous boost. And I think they'd like more Mac share for Premiere. So it behooves them to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that Premiere's performance on Windows suffered a little bit in the past 6 months to a year. And so they probably had to do a little bit of something to get that back where it should be.
It's hard to it's hard to optimize for Windows because there's so many different configurations, but Macs are fairly constrained, right? And you can do a few things, like supporting Metal, that really give you a performance boost.
The real question is, though, when is Final Cut Pro coming to my iPad Pro?
Yeah,
that's all I really want.
Yeah, when is this happening? Somebody needs to make this happen yesterday.
I don't know. The same answer as Xcode is like, what do you consider to be Final Cut Pro? And it's the same thing Adobe's trying to answer with Photoshop. It's like, and they're very careful to say real Photoshop is coming, but they will never say full Photoshop is coming. And what they mean is the Photoshop code base, but not the Photoshop feature set. They're going to be very selective in what features come over, primarily because the iPad is super RAM constrained compared to a lot of other devices. Like you can't get 16 gigabyte, 32 gigabyte, 64 gigabyte iPad configurations. So they've got to be really careful in how they code that stuff. So I think the Apple has to figure out what Xcode is and what Final Cut Pro actually is on the iPad before they release them.
Yeah, but I'm not an engineer. I don't care about anything. I just want what I want.
That is the fact that we already have LumaFusion on iPad, so it's not like we can't have a very good
LumaFusion is okay. Like I do like it. But I still it's not what I want though. Like it's not Final Cut.
Right, but
is it the magnetic timeline? Is it like they have to figure out what features make a lot of sense on the iPad?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. And really, what I really need is whatever it is to let me edit on the external drive and not just copy over. It's nice that I can plug it in, but I need to edit on it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. That's annoying that you have to put it on the iPad. You can't do it from the drive. That's kind of annoying. Yeah.
And is it like what Adobe's doing, sort of where it's like a proxy media and you're really editing the cloud file that also syncs to your Mac or your Windows? Like, is it a representation of your project that you're editing on mobile, but the project is actually on you? I mean, a whole bunch of questions to be answered.
Right.
And the way I look at it, like I've been a long time Logic Pro user, all the way back to when eMagic still owned it as opposed to Apple. And what Apple did when they bought Logic is they dumbed it down considerably and repackaged it as GarageBand. And now GarageBand's on the iPad, and so is iMovie. And I think that they look at that as like a way to give you some of the experience, but not all. Like I would never want to start and finish a project, like a big project in GarageBand, although it's totally doable. So I don't know. I don't even know if it's like something that they're really primed to do.
See, but that hits the nail on the head. Renee's asking like what features and everything, because it is the little extra things. Like I use optical flow in Final Cut all the time, and you can't even do stabilization in LumaFusion. Like there are some necessary things that I guess are pro things, and it's the little things.
Yeah.
And everybody's probably got their own 5 features that they can't live without, but they don't give a crap about anybody else's 5 features.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't even know what that first thing you were talking about is. So
yeah, dude, I'm on another level. No, I just found out about it the other day.
It's like
it inserts extra frames. You can like slow down like 10% if you want to, like super slow, but it'd be really choppy. So optical flow inserts like extra frames, and if there's not too much motion, it will like be amazing, and you can stabilize it, and it's really cool. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I am now that I'm not just like trying to get content out while I work a full-time job, everything else, it's like I'm trying to learn some of the stuff that I was just like, I'm not going to learn that. That's going to take me time. I'm just going to put the videos out as good as I get them right now. So I'm trying to figure out that stuff a little bit more.
Yeah, and ultimately I've found, at least for me, like just putting out the content is more important than being super technical in your the way that you do it. Like just get it out there. Like, and I feel the same way with my shots. Like sometimes I'll use a 360 camera and there's like video tearing and stuff, but I don't care because it illustrated what I was talking about. And at the end of the day, that's all that really mattered.
It just looks so good.
No, dude. Thank you though. But you know what? I wear that Insta360 camera everywhere. It's constantly recording. Yeah, it's funny.
No, but you're right, Chris, especially in the field that we're in. I mean, we have to get these videos out as quick as we can because a lot of the stuff is time sensitive. So we don't have time to get real fancy with the editing. We just got to go.
Yeah. And it's hard, like I think a lot of people feel like FOMO, especially in the tech YouTube space, because you see all these people with amazing studios and cameras, and it's hard to not be like, well, that's what I need. But you don't really, though, need that. No.
No, I remember when we went to Jonathan Morrison's place when we were out in LA for Vid Summit. I was like, okay, this is next level, maybe a few levels above next, but at the same time, I was like, this is like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gear. There's no way. So it's like I got an A6300 and a Sigma 16 lens, and I'm just gonna rock.
Dude, one of my favorite things, and this is maybe weird, but is to go back and look at like some of the popular tech channels, especially when they were sort of like where I'm at right now. That's so fun for me because you can see everyone's been like at all these different points, and to see somebody who's super successful, like right at this point, it's really interesting. Like you almost need like a Nick at Night of like classic tech YouTube. I would watch that.
That would be great. That would be so amazing. If you watch, I watched a little bit of John Rettinger's new video.
Yeah.
And just looking at those videos about the Palm Pre or the Windows Phone or anything like that, and he's in just like the worst echoey room using camera audio. I'm like, okay, this is, yeah, we can do this. But yeah, it was really interesting to see, because I don't think we recognize really how much YouTube and the way that we make videos changes from year to year. I mean,
That's true. But at a fundamental level, the only thing that really matters is that you keep doing it. I think really
yeah,
is
no,
like not start and don't give up. That's like pretty much the ingredients.
yeah, no, I think that's the whole deal. Really, it's like if you make videos and you put them out as often as you can, and then eventually, like multiple times a week, then you'll start getting people to watch. But if you don't do that, then it's kind of like a self-defeating system, where it's people who don't think that they can do that, like then nobody watches, and so they say, look, I told you so, and it's just then they pay for more gear.
My favorite Hensel Gracie saying is that a black belt is just a white belt who never quit.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people think they have to have the perfect gear and all this other crap to do YouTube. We really don't. Just take out whatever you got, start recording, and just go from there. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a Isaac Dennison quote about writing that's, I sit down and write every day without hope or despair. And that's kind of my mantra.
Yeah.
There was this they had this Q&A with Stephen King and George R.R. Martin. And they said, are there any more questions? And Martin says, yeah, I got one. And he looks at King and he goes, how the fuck do you write so much? And King goes, how the fuck don't you? I wake up in the morning, I write 20 pages. Sometimes it takes me 2 hours. Sometimes it takes me 6 hours, but I get those pages done. Then I get on with my life. And I do that every day because I'm a writer. And I think Martin just wanted to strangle him.
Yeah. Yeah. I read Steve. So I have a master's in a master's of fine arts in fiction. So I've studied this stuff way more than is probably appropriate, but I read Stephen King's book called On Writing. And that's kind of one of the things that he talks about. Even when he got run over by a car, he was finding ways to work. He said in the book that he takes 2 days off a year, his birthday and Christmas, and every other day he writes, which is insane.
But that's the key to anything, though. The more you do it, the better you get.
Right.
Like in the old days, like old school blogging days, when we started Mobile Nations, there was like, for a period of time, there was like one person on each site. Phil Nicholson was doing Android Central. I was doing iMore. Dan Rubino was doing Windows Central. And we just sat there all day, wrote like 10 to 20 articles every day, and then went, drank, slept, woke up again and repeated it. And that was for a couple of years, and it's just how the internet was born.
Right. Right.
It's funny if we talk about this, because I've told people repeatedly, like, I started doing YouTube on Jan 1st, 2018, and every single week since that day, I've uploaded something to the platform. Either live stream or video. Have not took a week off since I started. And just like what you got to do. You got to grind. You got to put it out.
Yeah, that's the main thing. I remember when I started, I had a blog first though, so I did have a little bit of a transition, but it took me 6 months to get my first 1,000 subscribers. And I marked each one on the outside of the studio. And, it was like, that was the motivation. And,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started in 2013, but not with any real intention of doing this as a thing. And I just kind of, until 2016, I was just kind of like, I was doing gaming headsets and audio and stuff like that. And when I had something new, sometimes I'd get more stuff out. Sometimes I wouldn't. In 2016, I decided that I was going to put out at least 3 videos a week. That was like June of 2016 or July 2016. So 3 years ago. And from that time, and that's also when I changed the name of the channel to Painfully Honest Tech. And from that time, like I started, don't think I had 1,000 subscribers yet at that point. But then by the end of 2017, I had 4,000 something. And by the end of 2018, I had 140 something thousand. And it just kind of like, it just all of a sudden took off and became a thing. Like 2017 was the first time I thought like, oh, this might be something.
So I've often thought that if I had a channel just hating on tech, I would get like way more subscribers. I wonder if you had a channel called Partially Honest Tech, where you told two truths and a lie every show, and people had to try to figure out which one it was, whether the engagement level.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard. I've made videos that I thought were just really straight up common sense, and then had people go insane on me. You know, and it's always surprising to me. Like the big video that took off for me last year was, I'm not buying an iPhone. You know, I'm not buying a new iPhone or ordering a new iPhone. That was the title of the video. And it just caught on fire and went to like over 1 million views. And forever after that, people were like, you said you weren't going to get it. It's like, no, I said I wasn't going to order it, but I still, want to review it. I want to use it. I want to see what it's all about, because that's a part of what I'm doing here on YouTube. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter. When I put out a video called "I'm keeping the iPhone XS Max" or something along those lines, and I lost like 1,200 subscribers over the course of like 36, 48 hours. And I was like, what's happening? They're so mad.
They were mad.
They were.
Yeah, I'm not ordering the Galaxy. I'm not ordering the Pixel. I'm not ordering.
Well, yeah, yeah. That's the thing. Like,
lean into it.
I just maybe I should.
Not ordering any microwave. I'm not ordering.
I'm not ordering the new Samsung smart refrigerator.
Yeah.
No, but Renee, it's funny that you said that, because these days drama is what sells on YouTube. If it's anything drama related, or if it's a potential train wreck, people are all over it on YouTube.
Yeah,
that's true, but that's no way to run a channel. I mean, if you have something useful to say, then there's always a market for that, especially for tech stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. That's no way to run a channel. But if you want views, if that's your whole objective is to get views, that's how you get them.
The
easily.
One thing that really made my brain boggle, I think last week or the week before, Legal Eagle put up a bunch of different videos. One was a legal analysis of the abortion laws in the US, and the other was a legal analysis of whether Captain Marvel committed assault in the Captain Marvel movie. And the Captain Marvel one got way more outrage and way more views and way more attention than the serious actual legal one. And I'm just, and after a while, at first I was just, again, disappointed with humanity. But then I'm like, of course people are more upset about the Marvel movie than they are, because we all live in a weird world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you say that, Chris, because I knew at the time that when I was making these videos that were kind of I was venting about my feelings about Apple and all that kind of stuff. I knew at the time, I was like, this stuff is what I think and what I feel, and it's really working right now, but there's no way that I could do this for years on end. I have to find other ways to also make content that people want to watch. And
yeah. Well, it's like, I mean, if something, I don't want to like blanket statement it, because if something is your experience, you got to say that, obviously. But I feel like invented stuff is like stupid, like Forbes headlines or some certain mashable headlines, like.
Yeah. No, that's true. The Forbes headlines, like, in some ways, I respect the clickbait, but I only respect it if what they're talking about inside the article is actually sourced from somewhere, which most of the time it is. But then, sometimes like The Verge really pisses me off.
Don't you even, Jason, don't get started with Vox Media, man.
Oh yeah, they'll come after me. Yeah.
Geez. Oh.
I get all uppity about stuff.
I just so I have no problem. Like, I think clickbait is a bad word because it comes from bait and switch, and
Right.
You can have like a clickable title that still delivers on the promise you make when you have that title or that thumbnail. But like, if it has nothing to do with it, and a lot of times, like the contributor network, like no one's noticing that Apple's switching to USB-C. And it's like, because that's clearly the wrong end of the cable. Like the picture's right in front of you. It's clearly the wrong end of the cable. And you got like the worst headline and there's no, and like, like do whatever headline you want, but prove it to me. Like, it's like your math teacher. I don't want to be your math teacher, but I'm going to be your math teacher. Show the work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that I get accused of clickbait all the time. And people are like so put out by it. They're like, "Oh my God, you're so."
Nobody puts a sign up saying "world's worst coffee" on their restaurant. It's
Right.
like we've got the most mediocre coffee in Chicago. Like no one goes in there. It's like world's best coffee. Yay! No one cares.
The coffee's not that great, but it's cheaper than the guy down the street.
No one puts up a movie in a movie theater saying this movie's terrible. Don't bother coming in to watch it. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. As long as if you're doing a video, if you're writing an article, anything like that, as long as what you're saying is then somehow addressed in what you write about or make the video about. If it's the topic of your video, it is not strictly the definition of clickbait. And most people see, like you said, clickable headlines, clickable titles, and they think that you're trying to be sensational about it. And I mean, yes, I am. but not for any kind of like bait and switch. I want to trick you into watching this video for long enough for me to get a view out of it. There's no upside to that.
Well, the issue here in 2019 is that people are so damn sensitive. The job of any YouTube creator is to get people to click on the video. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. So if you click on the video and like Renee's saying, if the video delivers on what the title is promising, then it's not really clickbait. Just because you feel some type of way that you click on it, that's not our fault. That's what we're trying to do. That's your fault. You need to control your emotions. What the hell?
Well, the thing is, I mean, the videos that get views are the videos that engage people's emotions most of the time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times you have to have some emotional stance yourself in order to get there.
Well, it's also that thing that Veritasium explained in his video. And I know, again, it's common sense, like Jason would say, but YouTube made a choice. They could have just shown your videos to your subscribers. And then we'd be like newspapers. We'd make great videos, try to grow our subscriber base. And that'd be all we need to do. But they made a deliberate choice not to show your videos to your subscribers. Instead, They put them out there and they judge it based on click-through rate. And if you have a bad click-through rate, they decelerate your video. And if you have a good click-through rate, they accelerate your video. And so everybody has to target click-through rate, and your subscribers don't mean anything. And so it goes back to, hey, I'm on the corner, I got a murder in the 3rd district, Anyone to read? And that's like, they created this business. They can shape it any way they want, and they deliberately chose to make it that way.
Right. And they just wrote down YouTube 2019. My goodness, there it is.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta go, guys. It was good being on here. Yeah. And let me just say, Frappuccino's good. Nitro coffee, better.
Lie! You lie!
I haven't tried this nitro coffee yet. I might have to get one tomorrow.
You'll see.
Thanks for coming on, Chris. I appreciate you, man.
All right, man. Subscribe to Daily Tech.
I'm already there, bro. I'm already there.
And flying elbow that bell dingus.
Boom. All right, see ya.
Later, man. But Renee, you analyzed it perfectly. It's not like we got all these subscribers, but they don't matter because YouTube doesn't give them the damn video. Like,
no.
What is the point then? It's weird. It's weird.
It's funny because I've been watching when I release a video, I will have an early spike of subscribers, and maybe it's like a couple of thousand views or 1,000 views. And then almost immediately after that drops off and it turns over to browse features.
Yep.
And browse features is what drives all the views from that.
And those aren't subscribers. Those are bell dinkusers.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really difficult to know exactly what to do and still maintain some sense of not being a scumbag. So I mean, yeah, you're right. They created this. This is the game that they want to play. And so to whatever degree a channel needs to or wants to, they have to play the game. Unfortunately.
It's interesting. It's funny because they swear up and down, they give us all these analytics. And while they do give us all the analytics, like Renee said, it doesn't really matter much because basically anytime we drop a video, we're just playing Russian roulette more or less. So,
yeah. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I've made enough videos that I kind of know the potential of a video when I release it, like what based on what the topic is, or based on what the currency of it, or something like that. But I can't ever prognosticate something that jumps beyond sort of a typical range for me.
Oh yeah, it would have like basically the algorithm just picks a random video that it's feeling that day and then it pushes it out.
Yeah. I have noticed though, and maybe this is just because they changed the YouTube studio. I have noticed that my videos get more views for longer, but I haven't had as many videos sort of jump and get like tons of views initially.
Well, my views have been pretty low for the last 3 or 4 videos. My views have been low lately, so I don't know what the hell's going on with that, but.
Mine too. I wonder if people are just busy in the summer. They're outside, they're not inside watching YouTube.
Yeah, that's part of it, and I think also the tech news is not real spicy right now. So, I think in the couple of years that I've gone through this cycle before this year, I've always noticed that like from say March or April through to mid to end of July, it's really dead compared to like then August, September, October come and all these phones come out and things go crazy. So yeah,
go crazy.
Last year's iPhone season was very intense. I think I made probably like 9 iPhone videos in the course of a week and a half. when it was announced and then all the way through release, and because it was working.
Hey, when it's iPhone season, man, it's iPhone season.
Yeah.
Well, the old joke, like back in the day, the early blog days with like Gizmodo and Engadget, the old joke was that everybody made their year in terms of money with the Apple iPhone keynote. Like that was just, you got millions and millions of viewers on your live blog. It paid for everything you were doing. It was like Black Friday for bloggers.
Right. Yeah.
It took down AOL data centers. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. When I in October of this past year, I made 5 times what I typically make in a month, in that 1 month. And I got like 40,000 subscribers. If you look at my like subscriber chart on Social Blade or whatever, it looks like I was doing like kind of okay, and then I was amazing, and then I'm still like kind of okay. But that spike is so big. I don't know if I can do that every October, then I'll be in good shape. But who knows? Apple still is the golden goose when it comes to talking about tech. I don't know exactly why, but people are more emotionally attached to Apple products.
Yeah, I mean, so, Renee shot up to 100K in about a year and basically doing mostly Apple content. Keep getting it done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
they don't do anything else. I'm like super dumb about everything else.
Well, the thing is, like the thing that's I think really works well for your channel is that people are learning. I mean, if they followed you before you started the channel, they already knew, but people are learning that like you're the thinking man's Apple channel. Like you've got deep knowledge, you're really thoughtful about what you create and how you talk about it. And I think that's attractive to a lot of people. And you stay so focused on that realm, on that range of topics, and you cover them with such depth that, I mean, I'm super impressed, like with the amount of topics and how you have so much command and of the knowledge of so many different things that you can create that Apple content.
It doesn't feel like it.
Well, you can. Everybody feels like they're faking it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. I
was gonna say it's fascinating because I've been following Renee for years, like way before he started doing YouTube. But so I already knew like he was like one of the smartest like Apple people alive. But just to see him transition over to YouTube and see it continue and see him just grow like wildfire, like I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all.
Oh, thank you.
One thing I can say is I've got to get my my sponsor transition game going. You've left me far in the dust.
Woo,
of course,
Renee,
man,
Renee be through the ad read so fast you don't even know it was a sponsor read the building.
No, I mean the only realization I had is that people hate humans in general hate change. Like you leave the room, you go into the kitchen, you forget what people just aren't good at context changing. And so even if it's a great ad or a great product, it's so jarring to people when it's like and people say, well, you should have like this hard break. And but people hate that. It feels like you just stuck a wall in front of them and they ran like a cartoon into it. Right. So I just try to make it feel like part of the content. And I pull up the banners and I do all the disclosures and stuff. But I don't want you to ever feel like I just took you out of a nice warm bath and dropped you into ice water for like a minute and then dragged you back out. It's not a Russian spa.
No, Renee, no. Don't you ever change, Renee. Do not ever change. The way you do your ad sponsor reads are brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
Brilliant. Pun intended. Pun intended.
On brand.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be watching one of your videos and I'm like, hey, you've been talking for 2-3 minutes, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're in the video. And then you're like, and then you like just smoothly slide into that, and come back. You see, you have a very nice, you have a very nice sort of way of moving in and out of the sponsor reads that I think it's not as jarring for people. Yeah, I'm only in the very infancy of my sponsored stuff at this point, so it's like trying to get people to work with me and then hoping that it works.
Renee is a bad man.
Yeah, but I have been stealing some of your game.
Oh no, please. I mean, I steal from everybody. Like I got the idea from Dave Wiskus, who runs Standard Broadcast, which is like Kirkazakt and CGP, CGPPG, CGP Gray, COD Gray, and a whole bunch of other people. And I was just trying to listen over and over again to how they did it. And I just trying to get better and better at it, because podcast ads were so different, because it's like an hour, 2 hour show, and then you stop and and I watch people like Leo Laporte, and he's like so excited, ad read after ad read, and like it just keeps it up for so. And there's just so much talent out there. I just want to soak it all in.
Yeah. I've been trying to figure out our podcast as we do it on YouTube Live is just like 2 hours of us like pretty much talking about the topics. But I've been reluctant to say like, and that's the podcast. Here's 2 hours of 2 guys, 3 guys, however many people are on, talking about stuff. And because I have a new network that I can put the podcast on, and I plan to put the podcast on, but I'm still just kind of like, I don't know. Is this the right thing? I don't know. It's always
one day at a time, Jason. One day at a time.
I know.
Gentlemen, we've been here for a while. I don't want to keep holding you guys up. I appreciate you both coming on the live stream tonight. So, Renee, before we get out of here, man, what is the first non-Apple product that Jony Ive will make, man? Where do you think he's heading?
I think it'll be something quintessentially Jony Ive. Like it'll be a technology item that appeals to a small batch of people, something refined, something elegant. I don't know what it's going to be. I have a tough time thinking about what it's going to be, because obviously, like, he's not going to make his own watch, at least not right away. He's not going to make something that directly competes with Apple, I don't think. So when I look at like the product red stuff that was sold, maybe it'll be that perfect chair, or that I have a hard time thinking about exactly what it's going to be, but I think it'll be something super simple, super elegant, probably super expensive.
Oh yeah.
Maybe he can partner up with Hermes. We'll see.
Yeah, that'll price it right out of my.
No, but see, that's the thing is like I realized early on I just can't buy everything, so I just wait for the knockoffs. You know, wait for the influence, like let them send the trends, and then I can go find like the discount pair at
Right.
Superstore.
Yeah.
All right, Jason, same question to you.
I want to see him make. Okay, so this may directly compete with the HomePod, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I want to see him design like a nice audio system that integrates the technology, because it's been a long time since we had something of the quality of like a component audio system that was focused on this new realm of digital music. And so I'd love to see him in that space somewhere.
What if he made a turntable?
Yeah. I would love that. Be
Yeah,
amazing.
that'd be so cool.
And it would cost like $10,000, and I'd be like, yeah.
But it'll be blasted aluminium.
Yes, the aluminium is the most important part of the whole thing.
Can we just get like a Jony Ive like sound deck? That would be awesome.
Yeah, I need to hook up my Stream Deck and get Magical just on so I can press the button at any time.
You got to get aluminium too. You can't just get
Yeah.
Magical.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw him do one of those, I was like, this guy is on something.
Remember the last time he was on stage? It was like the 2008 unibody MacBook debut.
Right.
And he was up on stage and handing it out. And it's just, he always come, thank you. Or when Steve would call him for the first time on the iPhone, how you, Steve? How you?
Oh, those were cool.
So good. FaceTime. Steve's so angry at everybody's MiFis, and Johnny's just trying to get through the demo. They won't turn off their MiFis, Johnny. How you, Steve?
I should have known something was wrong last year when there was no Jony Ive voiceover for the new iPhones. I didn't know what was going on at the time, but I should have known that something was going on.
Yeah. And then poor Craig was out there trying to get Face ID to work. He's probably the only person that's in the Apple events these days that could actually play that off and not completely crash. I feel like he's the best natural presenter of the
9
group,
slides a minute, y'all. 9 slides a minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that where they're going at? Wow.
Well, they were joking on the at Gruber's talk show live at WWDC. They had Jaws and Craig on, and Jaws said he used to be at 9 slides a minute. Now he's down to 7 in his old age.
Yeah, I used to use like breakdowns of Steve Jobs' performances as presentations. I used to use those because I've run a conference for the past 10 years as part of my day job. And so we would forward them just a bunch of links of like, here's some things that you could learn about and do to become a better presenter. Because I work at a medical school, and they don't quite understand the purpose of a slide. They just basically put everything that they're going to say or that they want to say on the slide, and then talk about the slide.
Yep. Been there.
And we're just like, let's use the slide as an augmentation of what you're saying. So anyway,
that's weird.
Steve Jobs like revolutionized that kind of presentation. Like, can you imagine going back 100 years ago to see a Compaq show where they're introducing their new laptop or whatever, and it's just like nobody's that's not must-watch TV.
No. Shout out to my man El Jefe Reviews in the chat. He just posted my Buy Me a Coffee link. The channel is still not monetized because I'm not at 1,000 subscribers yet, but if you guys are feeling generous and you want to donate, click the link that El Jefe just posted in the chat. Buy your boy a coffee. As I tell you all, it's not required, but it does help me out greatly. So thank you guys for supporting me in the channel, and thank you all, Jefe, for putting it out there.
Man needs coffee.
Right, man needs coffee. That's right. Thank you to Mr. Jason for paying for me on the tech. Thank you to Renee Ritchie for joining me on the live stream tonight. Also, thank you to Taylor Tech, my man Drew, and my dude Chris from Daily Tech. Make sure you guys check them all out. They are awesome creators here on the tube. But that will be it for this edition of Friday Night Vyper. Thank you, Jony Ive, for everything you've done for Apple, and it'll be exciting to see what you do in the future. But, people, we are done, and we're getting out of here. So, until the next time, people, this your boy Vyper, the man about tech. You know where to find me. So come back for more.